Chapter 201. Long Haisheng's face was still gloomy. Obviously, he was still angry. He said to Wolf with a cold face, "What's the background of this guy?" Wolf hurriedly said, "His name is Wang Ziming. He comes from a small family in Jiangnan City. His family has two small businesses with assets of more than 100 million yuan. He is just a nouveau riche without much background." Long Haisheng said, "Spread the word that from today on, no one is allowed to do business with the Wang family. Otherwise, you are against Long Haisheng. I will leave this matter to you. Just take it as today's merit to make up for your mistake. 3 days later, I want to see the Wang family go bankrupt and let Wang Ziming go begging. If you can't do this, then you can go begging." Wolf was so scared that he hurriedly promised, "Please rest assured, I will make you satisfied." He was relieved. Today's matter had finally passed safely. But at the same time, he began to mourn for Wang Ziming's family. They had offended Long Haisheng and could not have a foothold in Jiangnan City. Not to mention such a small Wang family, once a large enterprise with assets of tens of billions, was completely erased from Jiangnan City by Long Haisheng's words. No one dared to do any economic transactions with them. Then the bank urged loans, creditors came to their door, and the economic chain was broken. Hu Shaoxian said to Lu Yuqing with a smile, "It's over. You missed the Lamborghini because of a broken BMW. Now you don't even have a BMW. You can live with a beggar in the future. No, you can't do this. He has lost 10 million yuan. You should let him go." Lu Yuqing roared wildly at Wolf and Long Haisheng. She could not accept the reality. She paid a great price. She did not hesitate to give up her dignity. She did not hesitate to bear the fat and stupid man, in order to live the life of a rich person in her dream. But now all of this was gone. Just because they flirted with Qin Haodong, the whole Wang family was facing destruction. Wolf sneered and said, "He dared to openly offend the dignity of the great dragon. He was not killed immediately for Dr. Qin's sake. What qualifications do you have to bargain?" Lu Yuqing did not dare to provoke Wolf and Long Haisheng too much. She turned to Qin Haodong and shouted, "Are you retaliating against me?" Qin Haodong was feeding the little fellow. When he heard this, he raised his head and said lightly, "You think too much. Now you're nothing in my eyes. I'm not even interested in revenge. Then why are you doing this? Why let Wang Ziming go bankrupt? Why leave me with nothing? Don't you think this is too much? Too much. I'll let you know now whether it's too much or not." Qin Haodong said to Wild Wolf, "Tell her, why did Wang Ziming call you here?" Wolf said embarrassedly, "He gave me 500,000 yuan and asked me to break all your legs, then snatch Miss Hu and send her to his bed." Qin Haodong said to Lu Yuqing in a cold voice, "Did you hear that? Do you still think it's too much? For a scumbag like him, I asked him to get lost because we used to be classmates. You can give up your dignity for money. You can tolerate him seducing other women in front of you. That's your choice. But I won't spoil his mistakes. He has to pay the price for making mistakes. You go. From now on, we're no longer classmates. We're strangers when we meet." Lu Yuqing looked at Qin Haodong with a complicated expression. In the end, she did not speak. Like a walking corpse without a soul, she walked out of the private room step by step. At this time, Wang Ziming and Lu Yuqing were two insignificant people in Qin Haodong's heart. After this matter was over, they began to have a pleasant midnight snack. After dinner, Qin Haodong sent someone to escort Long Haisheng home. He said goodbye to Ouyang Shanshan and then got in a car with Hu Shaoxian and the little fellow. Qin Haodong drove and Hu Shaoxian held the little fellow. "Aunt Shaoxian, are you going to live in my house, too?" Tang Tang asked with her arms around his neck. Hu Shaoxian said, "I'm not going to your house. I'm going to your father's house." "Why go to Dad's house?" Do you want to be my mother, too? Hu Shaoxian glanced at Qin Haodong and then said with a smile, yes, do you like it? Yes, I like beautiful mommy best. The little fellow said cheerfully. Hu Shaoxian turned to Qin Haodong and said, did you hear that? Tang Tang has agreed to our relationship. Qin Haodong was speechless. He thought to himself, what's going on? Do I need my daughter's consent to find a girlfriend? Back at Lin's villa, Qin Haodong asked Hu Shaoxian to go upstairs first. He coaxed the little fellow to sleep before returning home. After entering the door, he found that all the lights in the rooms were off, except for his own room. When he opened the door, he saw Hu Shaoxian lying on his bed. Her hair was wet and her skin was faintly flushed. It was obvious that she had just taken a bath. Most importantly, she was wearing a pink nightgown. Compared to the black nightgown, the color of this nightgown was more ambiguous. The material was more transparent and light, and it made her look even sexier. Qin Haodong raised his hand and touched his hot nose. He said, what are you doing? Why are you in my bed? Don't you know what I'm going to do? Hu Shaoxian gently bounced up from the bed as if she was weightless. Then she swayed her sexy body and came to Qin Haodong. She stretched out two lotus root-like arms and hooked his neck. Her voice was so coquettish. Little man, since I've agreed to be with you, you can do it. Ah. No, I'd better go to another room to live. Qin Haodong turned his head and wanted to run, but Hu Shaoxian pulled his arm back. She said with a smile, little man, it's not so easy to run away. I must sleep with you tonight. As a man, Qin Haodong never thought that he would be pushed by a woman. Naturally, he would not give in like this. However, his cultivation was only at the 9th level of overt power, which was much worse than Hu Shaoxian's 2nd level of covert power. The result of his desperate struggle was that his acupoints were blocked. Seeing that his behavior was restrained, Qin Haodong hurriedly cried, Hu Shaoxian, stop. What are you going to do? Little man, didn't I tell you what I was going to do? Hu Shaoxian smiled. She raised her hand and pulled off Qin Haodong's coat. Then she untied his belt and pulled off his trousers. Hey, stop it right now, Qin Haodong still wanted to say something, but Hu Shaoxian raised her hand and blocked his mute acupoint. Then she kissed him on the cheek and said, you're too noisy. That's good. After that, she threw Qin Haodong on the bed with only a pair of trousers left. Qin Haodong secretly complained. Although his genuine qi was extremely pure, his cultivation was a level lower than Hu Shaoxian's. It was not possible to break through the acupoints in a short time. At this time, Hu Shaoxian began to untie her clothes and slowly took off her pink pajamas that were better than nothing. Her beautiful figure that could drive countless men crazy was revealed in front of Qin Haodong without any cover. How is it? Do I look good? Hu Shaoxian said coquettishly. Qin Haodong felt that his nostrils were getting hotter and hotter. He was afraid that if it went on like this, he would have a nosebleed. He wanted to close his eyes, but he was reluctant to give up the beautiful scenery in front of him. Hu Shaoxian also got on the bed and lay beside Qin Haodong. First, she gently pecked on his lips, and then stretched out her two white and tender hands to take off his last underwear. Qin Haodong, who was originally unwilling to be bound, was immediately exposed to the air with his head held high and chest out. It's over. Qin Haodong secretly complained. He didn't expect that the first time after his rebirth would be pushed down by someone like this. However, looking at the extremely beautiful Hu Shaoxian, he faintly had an instinctive expectation in his heart. Unexpectedly, what happened next shocked him. Hu Shaoxian held him in her arms, patted his face and said, well, let's go to sleep. Qin Haodong almost vomited blood. Did she make such a big scene and make such a scene just to sleep with him in her arms? How could he be worthy of being the second in command? But in fact, Hu Shaoxian didn't care about his emotions at all. She directly hugged his neck, and they fell asleep in each other's arms. In the beginning, Qin Haodong felt Hu Xiaoxian's tender and smooth skin, his nostrils were filled with a strong body fragrance, and his blood was in a state of boiling. However, Hu Xiaoxian really fell asleep, and she slept very soundly. Soon there came the sound of even breathing. It seemed that when Hu Xiaoxian said that she wanted to sleep with him, she really just wanted to sleep with him and had no other meaning. This made Qin Haodong and his second-in-command extremely disappointed, and soon they slowly fell asleep. The next day, when Qin Haodong got up, although the fragrance was still there, the beauty in his arms had disappeared. The acupoints on his body had been unsealed. Qin Haodong quickly got up from the bed and put on his clothes again. He looked around but didn't find Hu Xiaoxian, but he saw a note on the bedside. The handwriting on the note was very beautiful. It said, "Little man, when you see this note, I have already left. Do you like the way you slept last night? Are you happy or disappointed?" Qin Haodong touched his nose. At this moment, his mood was really very complicated. He didn't know whether he was happy or disappointed. From a rational point of view, he really didn't want to have sex with Hu Xiaoxian in such a muddle-headed way, but from a man's instinct, he missed the opportunity to sleep with such a beautiful woman. On the bed. It was a pity that he had a single chance. After calming himself down, he picked up the note and continued to read. "In fact, you don't have to be happy or disappointed. I said that you are my man, and you can't escape from my palm in this life. Looking at your lack of self-control, it must be your first time. In fact, I am the same. I have never seen a man's body before. Because of this, I am very careful. The women of our celestial fox sect attach great importance to their first time, and it also has extraordinary significance. You will know later." Qin Haodong knew this very clearly. Although Hu Xiaoxian's performance was foxy and affectionate, as a brilliant doctor, he could see that this woman was still a virgin, and the appearance was just an illusion. "Little man, the reason why I was anxious to sleep with you last night was that I had something to do. There was a task for me to do, and I don't know when I will come back. But you can rest assured that as long as the task is over, I will come back to you. At that time, it may be different to sleep with you. How about it, are you looking forward to it?" That was the end of the note. Behind it was a little fox's smiling face, and below it were two words, Xiaoxian. What a little fox who tortures people. Chapter 202. In order to find out the origin of the nine-dragon tripod, Qin Haodong once told Fatty Wang to call him as soon as the grave robber named Dilong appeared. Now Fatty Wang's phone call came. Did Dilong appear? Now he was trapped in the bottleneck of the Foundation realm, and his cultivation could not be improved at all, which made him extremely depressed. At this time, Fatty Wang's phone call finally made him feel hot, and he couldn't wait to press the answer button. Sure enough, as soon as the phone was connected, Fatty Wang's eager voice came from the other side. "Dr. Qin, Dilong just called me and wanted to make a deal with me." "Great." Qin Haodong said, "Tell me the time and place of your appointment." At 9:00 this morning, in a small valley outside the western suburbs of Jiangnan City. Qin Haodong said in surprise, 9:00 in the morning? Don't deals like yours usually take place at night? Dilong is very cunning and always likes to do the opposite. Most of the time he deals with me is during the day and rarely at night. Qin Haodong said, "Well, I'll go to you now. Let's go together." Soon, he drove to Fatty Wang's house, parked the car in Fatty Wang's yard, and then got in Fatty Wang's pickup truck. They went out of the urban area of Jiangnan City and came to a mountainous area outside the city. After a few turns, Fatty Wang finally parked the car in a small valley. It had to be said that this was really a good place for underground trading. It was not only very hidden, but also accessible in all directions. Once the police came, it was also convenient to escape. When they arrived, an SUV was already parked there. A skinny, middle-aged man, who was only 6 meters tall, was standing in front of the car and smoking. His eyes glanced around from time to time, looking extremely vigilant. Fatty Wang told Qin Haodong, he is Dilong, a master of grave robbing. The 9-dragon tripod was bought from him. This man has always been very careful and always deals one-on-one. He will run when he sees you later. Qin Haodong said, you just need to park the car. He can't run away. Then he parked the pickup truck in front of the SUV. When he saw Qin Haodong and Fatty Wang get off together, Dilong's face flashed with vigilance. Then he turned his head and ran to the SUV, twisting his butt and jumping into the driver's seat. His movements were extremely fast. However, Qin Haodong's speed was even faster. He almost turned into a shadow and came behind him. He reached out to grab his arm and pulled him out of the car. Dilong was not weak. When he was pulled out of the car, he pulled out a shiny dagger from the back of his waist with his right hand and stabbed Qin Haodong's neck with a cold light. This stab was fierce and fast. It could be seen that this guy was definitely a ruthless character. Qin Haodong raised his hand and knocked away his dagger. Then he grabbed his neck, lifted his thin body and slammed it against the body of the SUV. He said in a cold voice, behave yourself, or I'll send you to heaven. Dilong knew that he had met a tough character today and did not dare to act rashly. He turned his head and cried, Fatty Wang, you didn't follow the rules and sold me to the police. Fatty Wang said, Dilong, you misunderstood. This is my benefactor. He is not a policeman. He just wants to ask you something. Hearing that Qin Haodong was not a policeman, Dilong's expression eased a lot, but he still said, we have our own rules in the gambling circle. We can't tell outsiders anything. It's useless for you to ask. Qin Haodong said, I just want to ask you one thing. Where did the 9-dragon tripod come from? Just tell me where it is. Dilong said stubbornly, no, it's not in line with the rules of our gambling circle. I can't tell you. Seeing this guy was angry with him, Qin Haodong didn't bother to pay attention to him. A cold light flashed in his eyes and he directly used mind bewitching. Then he let go of Dilong's neck and asked, tell me, where did the 9-dragon tripod come from? After being bewitched, Dilong immediately became obedient. He said honestly, I found it in an underground palace in Shenangjia. Fatty Wang was very surprised. He didn't understand why Dilong, who had a bad temper just now, suddenly became obedient, but he didn't care. He turned around and went for a walk. Qin Haodong asked, how did you get it? Tell me in detail. Dilong said, in recent years, the business of gambling has become more and more difficult. The big ancient tombs are officially protected, and the unprotected ones have been stolen countless times. There is nothing at all. I had no choice but to go to Shenangjia. In ancient times, some rich people set their tombs in the deep mountains to prevent tomb robbers. I wanted to try my luck and see if I could find an ancient tomb that had not been stolen. But my luck was not good. After entering Shenangjia, I was caught in the fog. Soon I got lost. Then I lost my footing and fell off the cliff. I fell unconscious. When I regained consciousness again, I was already in an underground building. I carefully observed that it was not an ancient tomb, but an underground palace. Qin Haodong was secretly happy. This should be the cultivator's relic he was looking for. Dilong continued, I broke my left arm and right leg at that time, and it was very difficult for me to move. Later, I found a stone room next to it, with the 9-dragon tripod and some bottles and jars in it. I was very hungry at that time. In order to survive, I climbed into the room and tried to find something to eat. Unexpectedly, there was nothing to eat in the stone room, but all kinds of small pills. At first, I was afraid that these pills were poisonous, so I didn't dare to take them. Later, the pain was too severe, and I was hungry. Anyway, I would die sooner or later, so I chose a fragrant black pill and ate it. Unexpectedly, after taking a pill, not only the injuries of my arms and legs were all healed, but I no longer felt hungry. At that time, I was sure that I had just eaten an elixir of life, but I didn't know which of the remaining pills was elixir of life and which was poisonous, so I didn't dare to eat them again. After the injury was healed, I wandered around in the underground palace and didn't find anything too good. Later, I moved the 9-dragon tripod and felt that this big guy was not too heavy, so I took it out of the underground palace and sold it to Fatty Wang. Qin Haodong asked, "Where is the underground palace? Can you still find it?" Dilong said, "After coming out of the underground palace, I found a few more companions and wanted to go back and bring more good things out. At least those bottles and cans were antiques, which could be sold for a lot of money. But when we went back, we couldn't find the entrance to the underground palace no matter what. When we left, I made a lot of unique marks. According to the marks, we should have found the gate of the underground palace. In fact, there was only a piece of stone there, and we couldn't find the gate at all. We had no choice but to return." At this time, Qin Haodong had confirmed that the underground palace was the relic of a cultivator. The earth dragon had fallen into it by accident, but all the cultivators' cave residences had protective tactical deployments. The tactical deployments would change every once in a while. Because of this, although he had left a mark, it was impossible for him to find the door of the cave residence. If he wanted to re-enter the cave, he had to break the protective formations of the cave. He said, "Where is the underground palace in Shenangjia? Can you draw me a map?" "No problem." Dilong agreed directly. People like them, who were proficient in the art of feng shui, were also very good at drawing. Dilong took out paper and pen from the car, and quickly drew a detailed map and handed it to Qin Haodong. Dilong pointed to a small red circle in the center of the map and said, "This is the last place I marked, but I can't find the gate of the underground palace at all." "That's none of your business." Qin Haodong directly erased Dilong's memory, and then left with Fatty Wang in the car. When Dilong woke up, he would only feel that he had just slept, and there would be no memory left. After leaving Fatty Wang's house, Qin Haodong had made up his mind to go to Shenangjia to explore the relics of the cultivators. Since the last incident with Dao Tong, he realized that his ability could not completely protect the safety of the little fellow. He must make himself stronger. Perhaps this underground palace was his chance to break through the bottleneck of the Foundation realm. But before going on a long journey, he had to be fully prepared. First, he went to the supermarket and bought a lot of things, which he secretly put into the storage ring. After all, the trip to the underground palace was full of unknowns. It was good to prepare more necessities such as food. Moreover, his ring was big enough to put the whole supermarket. Later, he bought a lot of cinnabar, yellow marker paper and other items. When he got home, he began to draw all kinds of talismans. For example, teleportation talisman, invisibility talisman, and water repellent talisman. Although these were the lowest talismans, sometimes they played a key role. Especially now that he had not reached the foundation establishment stage, there were many spells that he could not use directly. What about the talismans that he had drawn? Carved talismans could help a lot. After all these things were done, it was sunset. When he came to the Lin's villa, Lin Momo had already taken the little fellow home. "Papa, why didn't you pick me up?" the little fellow asked, holding Qin Haodong's neck. "Because Papa is going to take you on a trip, so I have to make some preparations in advance." "Great! Great! I'm going out to play with Papa." The little fellow jumped up cheerfully. Qin Haodong asked her to go out with Damao and Ermao, and then said to Lin Momo, "I have something to discuss with you." "You're not really going to take me on a trip, are you?" Lin Momo thought for a moment and said, "How about we go together in a few days after we're busy?" "It's not what you think." Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, "I think you can see that I'm not an ordinary person." Lin Momo nodded. Since this young man appeared in her life, she did see a lot of things she had never seen before, such as martial arts cultivators, and the flame on the little fellow's body that could spontaneously ignite. I said I would protect you and Tang Tang for a lifetime, but now my martial arts cultivation has reached a bottleneck, and I have to find some opportunities to improve. Qin Haodong briefly told her about the Shenangjia underground palace and said, so I want to go to Shenangjia to see if there is anything good in the underground palace that can help me improve my cultivation. Oh. Lin Momo nodded, but still asked, I understand, but you can go there. Why do you have to take Tang Tang with you? Qin Haodong said, you've seen Tang Tang's special constitution. She has the Suzaku's sacred body, which is extremely rare in martial arts. She is destined to not be an ordinary person in this life. Chapter 203. Lin Momo could understand Qin Haodong's words. If the little fellow suddenly burst into flames again, she really didn't know what to do. She couldn't spray it with a fire extinguisher. However, she was still a little worried and said, Tang Tang is so young. Will it be dangerous to go to a place like Shenangjia? There must be danger. As a warrior, you will face all kinds of dangers all the time. However, danger always coexists with opportunity. Only when there is danger can there be improvement. I will do my best to protect Tang Tang. As long as I am alive, my daughter will not be hurt. Lin Momo knew very well how much Qin Haodong loved the little fellow and believed what he said. After hesitating for a moment, she said, well, I agree to go to Shenangjia with you, but you must be careful and come back safely. Don't worry, we will be fine. Qin Haodong was not too worried about this kind of adventure. When he was in the cultivation world, he had explored all kinds of famous mountains and rivers and entered all kinds of dangerous forbidden places. He was very experienced. Although his cultivation was a little low now, he was familiar with all kinds of formations and mechanisms. He was confident that he could solve all kinds of problems he encountered. In this way, the next day, Qin Haodong left Jiangnan City with the little fellow and took a plane directly to Shenangjia in Yi Province. Shenangjia was one of the most mysterious areas in Huaxia. Legend had it that Shenong Yan Emperor, the ancestor of Huaxia, built a frame here to collect herbs and taste all kinds of herbs to save people from dying. Shenong, the ancient sage, had a high position in the hearts of Huaxia people. The Taoists respected him as Shenong the Great Emperor. The legend of Shenong tasting herbs was known to all Huaxia people. He created the Chinese medicine culture, which had been passed down to this day. Qin Haodong had a full understanding of Shenangjia before coming here. The existing forest area here was 1,618 square kilometers. Because of the large area, many areas had not been explored by human beings and maintained a primitive ecological environment. Because of this, there were many rumors about Shenangjia. There were many unknown things in the legends, such as savages. In recent years, many scientific expeditions and private backpackers had come to Shenangjia to explore this unknown area. In the end, many people disappeared after entering Shenangjia. Although the government had carried out many searches, they still found nothing, not even their corpses. However, with the development of the economy, the periphery of Shenangjia still developed a large number of tourism resources, and tourists came here in an endless stream. This was the route drawn by Dilong. The periphery first passed through the tourist area, and then went deep into Shenangjia. Because of this, Qin Haodong took the little fellow and followed many tourists into Shenangjia. They played as they walked, and they lived a happy life. A day later, the father and daughter had already passed through the periphery of Shenangjia and arrived at the edge of the tourist area. There were much fewer tourists here than before. Near noon, the little fellow cried, "Papa, I'm hungry. If you're hungry, let's eat." Qin Haodong was about to take out the food from the storage ring when he saw a farmhouse restaurant with a sign not far away. They were about to go deep into the no-man's land of Shenangjia. It would be impossible to eat in a restaurant in the future, so Qin Haodong changed his mind and took the little fellow to the restaurant. The restaurant was completely made of wood and looked a little shabby. There was a sign hanging at the door, on which the words, Game House, were written crookedly. After Qin Haodong went in, a fat middle-aged boss immediately greeted him and asked enthusiastically, "Young man, what do you want to eat?" "Tang Tang, what do you want to eat?" Qin Haodong asked the little fellow. "I want to eat noodles." The little fellow cried. "Well, give me 2 bowls of noodles," Qin Haodong said as he turned over the shabby menu on the table. There were not many kinds of dishes, and there was no vegetable at all. The price of the dishes was not too expensive, but in the principle of not wasting, he only ordered a spicy pheasant and a dish of soy sauce beef. Because the geographical location was too remote and there were few tourists, only the father and daughter ate. Soon, 2 bowls of shredded meat noodles, a pheasant, and a plate of soy sauce beef were served. Qin Haodong tasted the noodles and found they tasted good. He pulled a chicken wing in 2 slices of beef, put them in the bowl of the little fellow, and then ate them himself. After eating a few mouthfuls, the little fellow stretched out 2 white and tender fingers and picked up a hair from the bowl. "Papa, there is hair in the noodles." It was located in the deep mountains and the sanitary conditions were poor, but Qin Haodong didn't care too much. He raised his hand and shouted to the fat boss, "Brother, there is hair in this bowl of noodles. Please change it." After hearing his words, the boss's greasy face immediately sank and he said in a cold voice, "Young man, our restaurant is very clean. How can there be hair? Are you trying to blackmail me?" Qin Haodong glanced at the boss and thought that this guy was not a pure mountain person. He even knew such a fashionable thing as blackmail. He said, "I didn't ask you to pay for it, and I didn't ask you to pay for it. How can it be blackmail? Can't you change the bowl of noodles because there is hair in it?" The boss shook his big head and said, "No, this hair is not from our restaurant at all. It must have been brought by you." Qin Haodong didn't want to argue with him and said, "Well, I'll buy another bowl, okay?" The boss said, "You can buy another bowl, but you have to pay for the meal first." Qin Haodong really didn't want to talk nonsense with the fat boss, so he said, "Well, tell me, how much is it?" "Hurry up, we are in a hurry." The fat boss said, "It's a total of 404,000 yuan. I don't want the change of 4,000 yuan. You give me 400,000 yuan. Qin Haodong laughed when he heard this. He put down his chopsticks and said, "Boss, I just said that I was going to blackmail you. You are too cruel. Who are you saying is ripping off the customer? I marked the price clearly. It's not a blackmail if there is a price. You ordered it yourself." The fat boss threw the broken menu in front of Qin Haodong again. "Look, it's written clearly on it. 20 yuan for 1 noodle, 100 noodles in each bowl, 2,000 yuan in total. 100 yuan for 1 gram of flavored pheasant, and this chicken is 2,000 grams, 200,000 yuan in total. 200 yuan for 1 slice of spiced beef, and this plate has 100 slices, so it's also 200,000 yuan in total. It's not much, and it's just right." Qin Haodong glanced at the menu and saw that there was a unit behind the price, but the words were so small that he couldn't see it without the microscope. He didn't care at all just now. He laughed and said, "Are you playing word games with me?" The fat boss cried, "Don't talk nonsense, I don't have time to play with you. It's natural to pay for the meal. Pay the bill quickly." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "What if I don't have money to pay?" "No money to pay?" The fat boss smiled and turned to the direction of the kitchen and shouted, "Brothers, someone is going to eat and dash." As soon as his voice fell, 7 or 8 big men suddenly rushed out of the kitchen. These people were obviously ready in the kitchen, holding all kinds of knives in their hands, and their faces were fierce. The fat boss cried, "How about it? Pay or not?" Qin Haodong said, "Boss, you want 400,000 yuan as soon as you open your mouth. It's much faster than robbing a bank. I don't think you are robbing money, but people." The fat boss laughed and said, "You're right. If you have money, you can buy 2 of your lives with 400,000 yuan. If you don't have money, I'll sell you both together. This little girl is so cute that she can be sold for 70,000 or 80,000 yuan. A pretty boy like you can also be liked by a rich woman. Although it can't be sold for 400,000 yuan, it's not a big loss for me. As he spoke, he felt a little strange. In the past, when he robbed people, the customers always showed panic. After all, this place was too remote. Even if he killed people and threw them into the deep forest, no one would know. But the big one and the little one in front of him were completely different. They were not bold and did not look flustered at all. Even the little fellow seemed to not see these people, holding the chicken wings in her hands and eating them. Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Then you can try." This was indeed a good place to kill people and dump their bodies. If these guys really acted recklessly, he didn't mind sending them to hell. The little fellow also became excited. While gnawing the chicken wings, she cried, "Papa, beat the bad guys. Papa, beat the bad guys. Boy, you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin." The fat boss waved to his men behind him and said, "Teach them a lesson. Be careful not to hurt the little girl, or it will be difficult to sell her." Those people answered and were about to rush to Qin Haodong with the knives in their hands. Just when Qin Haodong was about to kill all these people, there was a roar of motors at the door. 2 brand new Hummer SUVs stopped at the door. Seeing someone coming, the fat boss and his men stopped together and turned to look at the door. After the Hummer was parked, 6 people jumped out of the car, led by a man and a woman. The man was tall and handsome, and the woman was not only beautiful without a single flaw, but her smile was also charming. As long as it was a male creature, it would not be able to help but take a few more glances. After the woman entered the store, she did not panic at all when she saw the big men with knives in their hands. Instead, she smiled and said, "What's going on? Are you opening a store or robbing?" "Aunt Xiaoxian, I'm here." The little fellow's eyes were sharp. She saw Hu Xiaoxian at once and immediately cried out happily. Qin Haodong was also secretly surprised. Hu Xiaoxian left a note saying that she was going to perform a special task. He did not expect to meet her here again in the blink of an eye. Because her sight was blocked by those big men, Hu Xiaoxian saw Qin Haodong and the little fellow at this time. She cried out in surprise, "Tang Tang, little man, why are you here?" After leaving Qin Haodong's home, she went back to meet her companions in the Xian department of Xianyuan Pavilion and made some preparations for entering the mountain, so she came a little late. "I didn't expect you to be a group." The fat boss stared at Hu Xiaoxian with a greedy look on his delicate face. He shouted to his men, "Kill them all together. Kill all the men and keep the women. Let's warm the bed together at night." Those big men had already been fascinated by Hu Xiaoxian. After receiving the order, they immediately rushed up with a howl, waved the knives in their hands, and attacked Hu Xiaoxian's companions. The young man next to Hu Xiaoxian looked cold and shouted to the 4 men behind him, "Break all their limbs and throw them into the forest to feed the bears." The 4 men answered and immediately went up. They were all first-class masters, and their cultivation had all reached the 9th level of overt power. When gangsters met warriors, there was only one result, that was, they were one-sided abused. Soon the 7 or 8 thugs were put down to the ground and all their limbs were broken. Their screams scared the birds around them to fly away. Chapter 204. Seeing that the situation was not good, the fat boss begged for mercy again and again, "Mercy, please let me go. I can give you money, I can give you a lot of money." Hu Xiaoxian smiled at him charmingly and said, "Keep your money and talk to the wild beasts. See if they won't eat you for the sake of money." After that, she moved like lightning. First, she broke the fat boss's legs, then twisted his arms, and then kicked him out of the window. At the same time, her companions also threw the fat boss's men out of the window. Outside the shop was the virgin forest, and they believed that there would soon be wild beasts coming to enjoy the delicious food. After dealing with the fat boss, Hu Shaoxian came to Qin Haodong with a smile, as if she had done a trivial thing. She sat down next to Qin Haodong with a smile on her face. She also reached out and hugged his arm. Her two full breasts were tightly pressed against him. Seeing that Hu Shaoxian and Qin Haodong were so intimate, several of her companions were shocked, especially the young leader, whose face immediately became gloomy. Hu Shaoxian ignored other people's emotions and said charmingly to Qin Haodong, "Little man, why are you here? Don't tell me he's here for me." Qin Haodong didn't expect to meet Hu Shaoxian here in the blink of an eye after he had just sent her away. He said, "You think too much. I don't even know where you are going. How could I look for you?" At this time, the little fellow finished eating a chicken wing and said in a childish voice, "Aunt Shaoxian, Papa and I are here to travel." "Travel?" Hu Shaoxian said doubtfully, "This is Shenangjia. It's almost enough to travel outside. What are you doing here?" "Actually, I'm here to pick herbs." Qin Haodong said, "I'm going to refine a special kind of elixir, which lacks a medicinal material. This time, this kind of medicinal material can only be found in Shenangjia, so I'm here to collect herbs and play with Tang Tang." This was the excuse he had prepared long ago. Otherwise, a man bringing a child deep into Shenangjia would definitely arouse suspicion. Hu Shaoxian looked at Qin Haodong. In addition to holding the little fellow in his arms, he was also carrying a large backpack on his back. She said, "You want to pick herbs in Shenangjia? Do you know how dangerous Shenangjia is? There are many unknown things here. Even so, many of us have to be fully prepared. You are simply making trouble." Qin Haodong said, "In fact, my ability to survive in the wild is very strong. These things are enough." His storage ring stored a small warehouse. This backpack was completely used as a cover when he was taking things. Hu Shaoxian's smile disappeared completely. She said seriously, "That won't do. Shenangjia is different from other places. Besides, you have a child with you. How about this, you come with us, and we'll have some guarantee of your safety." Hearing that Hu Shaoxian invited Qin Haodong to join their team, the handsome young man looked more gloomy. Qin Haodong said, "You really don't have to. I can take care of her myself." "No, absolutely not. This isn't a joke." Hu Shaoxian said, "I'll give you two choices. I'll call someone to send you back to Jiangnan City now, or you can join us. We can go together and take care of each other." Feeling Hu Shaoxian's genuine care, Qin Haodong couldn't say anything more. He could only nod and said, "Well, let's go together." The handsome young man couldn't help but step over. But when he came to Qin Haodong, the coldness on his face had disappeared. On the contrary, it was replaced by a warm smile. "Shaoxian, it's rare to meet friends here. Introduce them to us. This is my boyfriend Qin Haodong, and this is my friend Lei Tianrui." Hu Shaoxian introduced them. Although there was only a word difference between friend and boyfriend, the relationship between them was like heaven and earth. Hearing Hu Shaoxian officially admitted her relationship with Qin Haodong, Lei Tianrui's eyes flashed with an imperceptible cold light. Qin Haodong didn't deny it. He looked at Lei Tianrui. He was a real master of covert power. Although he was only at the first level of covert power, his covert power was still a level higher than his obvious power. Although Lei Tianrui hid it very well, it couldn't escape Qin Haodong's powerful spirit. Feeling the guy's killing intent, Qin Haodong secretly laughed. He had just arrived in Shenangjia, and he already had a rival in love before he officially entered. "Hello, Xiaoxian's friend is my friend. Come to me if you need anything in the future." Lei Tianrui still smiled brightly, as if he had met a friend he hadn't seen for many years. He reached out his right hand to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong reached out and shook hands with him, but he sneered secretly. He didn't expect that his rival in love was a scheming bitch. Lei Tianrui hid his emotions very well, but his men didn't have this ability. The four people behind him looked very cold. At this time, a bearded young man came forward and said, "Xiao Xian, how can you do this? As your brother, you should find a boyfriend like Tianrui. Why did you find a second marriage with a child? Aren't you confused?" Hu Xiaoxian said with a smile, "Brother Qiankuan, you misunderstood. Haodong is not married. This is his adopted daughter." After that, she introduced the four people to Qin Haodong. The bearded man who just spoke is Zhao Qiankuan, and the other three are Xie Zaidan, Wang Yuancheng and Dong Sihai. Then Hu Xiaoxian said, "I have something to tell you. Haodong is a doctor. He is going to Shenangjia to collect herbs. I think it's too dangerous for him to go alone. I want him to join our team. Is there any objection?" "No, I have an objection." The first to stand up against it was the bearded Zhao Qiankuan. It seemed that he had a good relationship with Lei Tianrui. "Xiao Xian, don't forget that we have a task this time. Taking two ordinary people with us will definitely affect us. What if we can't finish the task?" "I don't agree either." The one who spoke was Wang Yuancheng in camouflage clothes. He said, "That's right. We are going deep into Shenangjia. It's too dangerous. If we can't take care of him, it will bring danger to your friend." "That's right. Isn't it nonsense to take a child to Shenangjia to collect herbs? I say go back to where you came from. Don't make trouble for others." The bald man who spoke was called Xie Zaidan. This guy was hot-tempered and spoke impolitely. Seeing that the dignified Emperor Greenwood was regarded as a burden by others, Qin Haodong was secretly amused, but he didn't care. If Hu Xiaoxian couldn't persuade her companions, it would be more convenient for him to take the little fellow into the mountain alone. It was no wonder that these people looked down on Qin Haodong. He was originally white and tender, full of bookishness, and he practiced cultivation methods. Ordinary people couldn't see that he was a warrior at the 9th level of overt power. In addition, because of Lei Tianrui, these people unanimously opposed Qin Haodong's joining. Hu Xiaoxian said, "Haodong is an excellent Chinese medicine practitioner. Joining our team will not drag us down. On the contrary, it will increase our overall strength. Xiaoxian, I think he is in his early 20s. Such a young man is a Chinese medicine practitioner. How good can his medical skills be? I'm afraid the apprenticeship is not over yet. Xiaoxian, even if you want to defend him, you don't have to make up such a funny reason, do you?" Unsurprisingly, others continued to oppose Qin Haodong's joining. Hu Xiaoxian was a little annoyed. She was about to lose her temper when she heard Lei Tianrui say, "Okay, don't quarrel. Our team just needs a doctor. It's just right for Dr. Qin to join us. We should welcome him." "Boss, but..." Zhao Qiankuan was about to say something, but Lei Tianrui said coldly, "No buts. Don't forget that I'm the leader of this action group, and Xiao Xian is the deputy leader. We all agree that you must obey us 100%. "Yes, boss." Lei Tianrui said so. Although others were confused, they still agreed. Qin Haodong was slightly surprised. He thought that Lei Tianrui would also take the opportunity to oppose his joining. He didn't expect that this guy would agree unexpectedly. But one thing was certain, there must be no good things in his stomach. Seeing that her companions accepted Qin Haodong, Hu Xiaoxian was very happy and said, "You must be hungry. I'll go to the kitchen to cook in person to reward you." "Okay, I haven't tasted Xiaoxian's cooking for a long time." Xie Zaidan, the bald man, swallowed as he said. Obviously, Hu Xiaoxian's cooking was very popular. "Wait a minute, everyone. It'll be ready soon." Hu Xiaoxian turned into the kitchen after saying that. Others sat down to rest one after another. Lei Tianrui and Zhao Qiankuan turned around and walked out of the restaurant to smoke at the door. Zhao Qiankuan took out a lighter and lit all their cigarettes. He whispered, "Boss, I don't understand. You've pursued Xiao Xian for so long. Why do you still take that toy boy with you?" Lei Tianrui put the cigarette in his mouth and took 2 deep breaths. He said, "What can I do if I don't let him join? Can Xiao Xian change her mind? I know this girl's temper best. It will only aggravate her rebellious mentality." Zhao Qiankuan said, "But with this toy boy, it can only increase the chance of them being together. At that time, the boss's hope will be even smaller." Lei Tianrui said, "The reason why Xiao Xian likes this toy boy must be his appearance. Now we take him to Shenangjia. After a long time, Xiao Xian will see that this toy boy is just a good-for-nothing. He can't compare with me, a genius of martial arts. Only in this way can Xiao Xian see my advantages clearly." "That's true. A toy boy can't compare with you, boss." Zhao Qiankuan nodded and said. Lei Tianrui's face showed a grim look. He said gloomily, "And what kind of place is Shenangjia? It's dangerous here. Even we have to be extra careful when we enter. If something happens to that toy boy and he loses his life, he can't blame anyone else." Zhao Qiankuan suddenly realized that this was the fundamental reason why Lei Tianrui took Qin Haodong with him. Getting rid of Qin Haodong was the best way to make Hu Xiaoxian change her mind. "Boss, you're so smart," Zhao Qiankuan said and gave him a thumbs up. "You're just too straightforward. You should use your brain more." Lei Tianrui said proudly, "In the future, you should know how to control your emotions. Don't let Xiao Xian see that we're hostile to that guy. When the time comes, we'll find a suitable opportunity to send him directly to heaven." "That's it. Got it, boss. I'll pay attention." The two chatted for a while. They put out the cigarette butts in their hands and returned to the restaurant together. Chapter 205. Hu Xiaoxian's cooking skills were really good. The meat she cooked smelled so delicious that even the little fellow who had just eaten almost began to eat again. "Auntie Xiaoxian, the meat you cooked is delicious. Eat more if you like it," Hu Xiaoxian said as she added a piece of cooked venison to the little fellow's plate, and then put another bigger one into Qin Haodong's bowl. Seeing that the 3 of them were talking and laughing like a family, Lei Tianrui's eyes flashed coldly, and he vented all his resentment on the food in front of him. After lunch, the group of people set off. Lei Tianrui brought 2 well-equipped Hummers. There was a lot of space in the car. Although Qin Haodong and the little fellow were there, it was not crowded at all. Originally, Hu Xiaoxian and Lei Tianrui were in the same car, but after Qin Haodong came, she immediately followed them to another Hummer, and the 3 of them sat in the back seat together. Lei Tianrui's face was gloomy. He asked the bald Xie Ziden to be the driver for Hu Xiaoxian, and then the rest of them got on the other Hummer. The car started and moved toward the primeval forest of Shenangjia. Although the Hummer's off-road performance was excellent, the terrain in the primeval forest was uneven. There were no roads at all in many places, and the ground was covered with rotten branches and leaves. The car drove very slowly, not much faster than a normal person's walking speed. After the car started, the bearded Zhao Qiankuan said, "Boss, it seems that we have to find a way to kill that gigolo as soon as possible. This guy looks so annoying." Lei Tianrui looked gloomy and said, "He must die, but we have to pay attention to some methods, and we can't let Xiaoxian see anything." Zhao Qiankuan turned to Dong Sihai and said, "Sihai, you are an expert in the jungle, and you have been to Shenangjia many times. Is there any place where we can kill this guy without anyone knowing?" Dong Sihai consulted the electronic map in the car, pointed to a place in front of them and said, "There is a huge man-eating vine here. Last time one of my companions was accidentally eaten by that damn monster. It is expected that we will arrive here at noon tomorrow, and we will camp and eat here. When the time comes, we'll hurry up and occupy all the other positions, leaving only the man-eating vine's position for him. I don't need to explain the rest. At this point, Dong Sihai chuckled. The others also understood tacitly. Zhao Qianquan added, Lao Si, it's a good idea, but Xiao Xian has been with that guy all the time. She's the woman our boss likes. Will she also be hurt by the man-eating vines? Dong Sihai said, it should be okay. Boss and Xiao Xian have the best cultivation in our group. They have reached the first level of covert power. No matter how powerful the man-eating vine is, it can't swallow a master of the first level of covert power silently. Furthermore, there are so many of us. When the time comes, everyone should be prepared. As long as Xiao Xian is in danger, we will immediately lend a helping hand. Lei Tianrui nodded with satisfaction and said, that's a good idea. When the gigolo is fed to the cannibal vine, I can't say anything. Wang Yuanqing said, it's a pity that the little girl is so cute. Lei Tianrui said with a gloomy look, who can she blame? She can only blame her blind father for daring to provoke Xiao Xian. Soon after the two Hummers left, another 5 people came to the restaurant. There were 3 men and 2 women, and their clothes looked very strange. The leader was a bald man who was 1.9 meters tall. He wore an eye patch on his left eye, and his face looked very fierce. After entering the room, a woman in red tights swayed her slim waist and came to the table where Qin Haodong and the others had just eaten. She reached out and touched the uncleaned plates on the table. She turned around and said, Boss Scorpion, it's still hot. They should have just left. Who knows if these things are eaten by them? Maybe it's someone else. It was a woman in black who spoke. She was dressed in black from head to toe, even her shoes were black. But her curvy body was really hot. The woman in red said coquettishly, Black Widow, you always doubt my speculation. At this time, a tall and thin man said, Boss, there's someone behind the room. One-eyed dragon said, let's go and have a look. After the fat boss was thrown out, he looked at the forest in fear. Although it was not night yet, there were already 5 or 6 wild wolves wandering around him. It seemed that as soon as the sky turned dark, they would pounce on him and tear up the food they liked. Help! Someone help me! Before Hu Xiaoxian and the others left, the fat boss and his men were in great pain, but no one dared to call for help, for fear that they would provoke the group of people and directly kill them. At this time, the 2 Hummers had already driven away. They couldn't care less and began to shout desperately. They were now all disabled people with broken limbs. They couldn't even crawl. If they didn't meet anyone before dark, they would really be buried in the stomach of the wolves. The fat boss was shouting hard. Suddenly, a pair of black leather shoes appeared in front of him. He looked up and saw One-Eyed Dragon and the others. Help, help, big brother, I beg you, hurry up and save me. The fat boss seemed to have seen his savior and kept begging. One-Eyed Dragon's remaining eye glanced around coldly and asked, what's the matter with you? Big brother, we used to run a shop here, but we suddenly encountered a group of robbers. They not only robbed us, but also broke our arms and legs. Please save us. The fat boss put on a pitiful look. One-Eyed Dragon asked again, what do those people look like? You have to tell me in detail. The fat boss said, at first, there was a little boy with a little girl in his arms. Then there were 5 men and a woman, 6 people in total. These people were extremely fierce. After entering the room, they beat all of us and made us look like this. Black Widow took out a photo and sent it to the fat boss. She said, do you know this woman? It was Hu Xiaoxian in the photo. The fat boss quickly said, of course I know her. This is the woman who broke my legs. The woman in red said, how is it? Black Widow, I guessed right. They just passed by. Black Widow said, what's the matter with the little boy with the child? The woman in red smiled and said, just find our target. Why do you care so much? He's just a little boy. If I like him, I'll suck him dry. If I don't like him, I'll kill him directly. One-eyed dragon said, it seems that they are in front of us. Let's go quickly. After that, he turned around and was about to leave with his men. The fat boss panicked and hurriedly cried, Big brother, I've told you everything you asked. Hurry up and help us. I would have forgotten if you didn't mention it. One-eyed dragon looked back at the fat man and said coldly, send them on their way. Don't let these people expose the whereabouts of our devilish five. The fat boss was suddenly dumbfounded. He had been doing evil all his life. He didn't expect that today he would really meet evil people who wanted to kill them all. He hurriedly begged, Big brother, please let me go. No matter who asks, I won't say I've seen you. The woman in red swayed her slender waist and came to him. She said in a sweet voice, damn fatty, if you were a little more handsome, I might let you enjoy it before you die. Unfortunately, you are too ugly. Just go on your way. After that, a cold light flashed in her hand and directly cut the fat boss's neck. At the same time, the 7 or 8 men of the fat boss also screamed and were soon killed. After doing these things, the 5 people hurried up along the ruts left by the 2 Hummers. Lei Tianrui and his men didn't know that they were being followed. They drove slowly forward. The road in the virgin forest was getting more and more difficult. The paint outside the Hummer had been scratched. Fortunately, the armor was thick and did not suffer too much damage. This was not bad. Sometimes there was even no road. It was difficult to pass through the dense thorns. Several people had to get out of the car and cut away with knives. Every time this happened, Qin Haodong began to collect medicinal materials with the little fellow. Zhao Qinkuan and the others were exhausted, but he was leisurely, which made them angry. After walking and stopping for half a day, they had covered about 60 to 70 kilometers of road. Near evening, they came across an open field. Dong Sihai said, Boss, it's too dangerous to walk in the forest at night. Let's camp here. Lei Tianrui said, you are a jungle expert. We'll listen to you. Zhao Qinkuan parked the Hummer, and Xie Ziden also stopped. They began to set up camp here for the night. Dong Sihai had a lot of experience living in the jungle. He felt at home here. He walked out with his gun and soon came back with 3 pheasants and 2 rabbits. After washing the pheasants and rabbits, they set up a campfire and began to roast. It was very dangerous to make a fire in the big forest. Fortunately, these people had rich experience in survival in the wild, so they were not afraid of a fire. Half an hour later, the pheasants and rabbits were almost roasted, and a strong aroma began to spread in the woods. Lei Tianrui picked up a golden pheasant and stepped to Hu Shaoxian. He said flatteringly, Shaoxian, you've been tired all day. Are you hungry? He intended to share the pheasant with Hu Shaoxian. Before he finished, Hu Shaoxian took the pheasant from his hand and said, thank you. Before Lei Tianrui came to his senses, Hu Shaoxian came to Qin Haodong with the pheasant and said, Haodong, you've been tired all day. Are you hungry? This pheasant is good. Eat it while it's hot. Then, Qin Haodong and the other 2 began to eat the roasted pheasant together like a family. No matter how scheming Lei Tianrui was, his face was gloomy at this time. If eyes could kill, Qin Haodong would have been dismembered. At this time, Zhao Qinkuan came over with a roasted hare and pulled Lei Tianrui aside. He whispered, Boss, he's going to die. Why do you care so much about him? Let him live until tomorrow at most. Hearing this, Lei Tianrui was in a better mood. He tore off a hare's thigh and gnawed at it fiercely. But this was just the beginning. Then something more depressing happened. Although the Hummer was fully equipped, it only carried a single tent for 6 people. When it was time to sleep, there would be trouble. Qin Haodong and the little fellow had no place to sleep. In fact, There was a big tent in Qin Haodong's storage ring, which he had prepared before. But in front of so many people, he naturally could not reveal the secret of the storage ring. Chapter 206. Hu Shaoxian said, "How can we do that? We've been tired all day. If we don't sleep well, we won't have the strength tomorrow." Lei Tianrui said, "What should we do? Our equipment is brought according to the number of people, and we don't have extra tents. Should we give up our tents to him? It will affect our condition." Hu Shaoxian said, "Don't bother. We're not fat. 3 of us can squeeze into a tent." How can we do that?" Lei Tianrui was really shocked by Hu Shaoxian's words. "Of course. It's none of your business." Hu Shaoxian turned to Qin Haodong and said, "Did you hear that? Tang Tang, the 3 of us will sleep in one tent." Although he had the experience of hugging Hu Shaoxian to sleep, Qin Haodong still felt a little embarrassed. He said, "Forget it. You sleep in the tent with Tang Tang. I'll sleep in the car for one night." "How can we do that? It's so hard in the car. It's not comfortable at all, and it's easy to catch a cold." Hu Shaoxian complained, "It's your fault. You took the child to the mountain to pick herbs, and you didn't prepare at all. What if Tang Tang catches a cold?" Qin Haodong thought it had nothing to do with him. "I've prepared everything, but I can't take it out because of you." He said, "Forget it. The tent is so small. How can 3 people sleep in it? Why are you so fussy? Isn't it fine if the tent is small? Is there anything to be embarrassed about? It's not the first time we've slept together." Hu Shaoxian said it casually, but it was like thunder in Lei Tianrui's ears. He had always regarded Hu Shaoxian as his woman, his exclusive property, and never allowed others to touch her. He didn't expect that she had slept with Qin Haodong, which made him so angry that his eyes suddenly burst into flames. Dong Sihai saw that he was on the verge of exploding. He quickly pulled him aside and whispered, "Boss, don't be impulsive. If you really fall out with Shaoxian, it'll be troublesome. We still have an important task this time. And there can't be anything between the gigolo boy and the child. At most, we'll wait for another night. At this time tomorrow, the boy will be dead." Lei Tianrui took a deep breath and managed to suppress his anger. He turned around and went into his tent. Out of sight, out of mind. Since he couldn't stop it, he could only hide his head like a pheasant. On Hu Shaoxian's side, the little fellow held Qin Haodong's neck and said, "Papa, I want to sleep with you. Then shall we sleep in the car together?" With the little fellow's holy body, Qin Haodong was not worried about her catching a cold. The little fellow shook her head and said, "No, I miss my mom. I want to sleep with Aunt Shaoxian." Qin Haodong felt helpless. It was the first time for Hu Shaoxian to leave Lin Momo. It was normal for her to miss her mother at night. He had no choice but to borrow Hu Shaoxian for a while. After the discussion, the 3 of them entered Hu Shaoxian's single tent together. The tent was spacious for 1 person, but it was a bit crowded for 3 people. In the end, Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian turned sideways and sandwiched the little fellow in the middle, so that the 3 of them were much more comfortable. The little fellow turned her head and looked at Qin Haodong, then looked at Hu Shaoxian and said, "Aunt Shaoxian, you look like my mom." Looking at her lovely appearance, Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian kissed her apple-like face at the same time. Although they kissed both sides of the little fellow's cheeks, the atmosphere was still a bit ambiguous in this narrow space. The little fellow giggled and said, "Papa, Aunt Shaoxian, you kissed me together. Is it equivalent to you kissing each other?" The little fellow's words reminded Hu Shaoxian of the night when they hugged each other to sleep. Her face turned red. "Aunt Shaoxian, have you kissed my papa?" This question made Hu Shaoxian a little embarrassed. She was not used to lying to children if she said no, but she was a little embarrassed if she said yes. The little fellow did not dwell on this question. She turned her head and said to Qin Haodong, "Papa, can you kiss Aunt Xiaoxian?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Tang Tang, adults are different from children. You can't kiss casually." The little fellow said, "I know that adults can only kiss people they like, but I can see that Aunt Xiaoxian likes you." This, Qin Haodong was speechless for a moment. This little girl was so clever that she could see everything. "You're not as good as a child." Hu Xiaoxian looked at Qin Haodong with her charming eyes. Suddenly, she leaned forward and kissed Qin Haodong's lips gently. Although it was just a light peck and they parted as soon as they touched, such a kiss still made both of them feel as if they had been electrocuted. The tent fell into silence for a moment. The next morning, after breakfast, they set off again and went to the depths of Shenangjia. Qin Haodong secretly looked at the map that Dilong had drawn for him. It happened to be the same direction as Hu Xiaoxian and the others. This made him secretly feel strange. Could it be that these people's destination was the same as his, to go to the underground palace? When it was close to noon, they came to an open space again. Beside the open space was a dense forest. This forest was different from the forests they had experienced. In other places, there were towering trees that covered the whole sky, but the trees here were thin and short, with many slender vines hanging on them. Dong Sihai said, "Boss, this is the place I mentioned. Do you see those vines? They are the famous man-eating vines. Although they are motionless now and no different from ordinary vines, once someone enters their attack range, they will immediately become extremely fierce." Zhao Qinkuan asked, "Fourth brother, is this thing as powerful as you said?" "It's more than powerful. It's amazing. You'll see it later." Even a master of covert power can only avoid it temporarily. Zhao Qinkuan said excitedly, "So, that toy boy is dead." Dong Sihai said confidently, "Of course. If he can come out alive from the mouth of the man-eating vines, I'll write my surname backwards." He had been here once 3 years ago and saw the power of the man-eating vines with his own eyes. Lei Tianrui's face showed a touch of ferocity, and he said, "Well, let's camp here and act according to the original plan." Their car was in the front, and Qin Haodong's car was following. Seeing the car stop, the car behind naturally stopped. It was also lunchtime. After getting off the car, everyone began to pack up and prepare for lunch here. Dong Sihai, Zhao Qinkuan and others, according to the prior discussion, occupied all the positions far away from the man-eating vines, leaving the side close to the vines for Qin Haodong. "Dr. Qin, it's time to eat." Dong Sihai greeted him enthusiastically. Qin Haodong glanced at the vines hanging on the tree, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. As the Emperor Green would, how could he not know the man-eating vines? Looking at the position where Lei Tianrui and others were sitting, he immediately understood their intention. It was obvious that these people wanted to kill him with the man-eating vines. However, Lei Tianrui and Dong Sihai never dreamed that Qin Haodong was the king of wood, and how dare the man-eating vines attack him. As long as he wanted, he could drain the essence of wood of the man-eating vines at any time. But Qin Haodong didn't show anything, and directly sat in the reserved position with the little fellow in his arms. Lei Tianrui and Dong Sihai had a cruel smile on their faces, waiting for the man-eating vines to catch Qin Haodong and eat him. But after waiting for a long time, the vines didn't move at all. Qin Haodong and his daughter grabbed the food in front of them and began to eat. Until the end of lunch, the vines didn't move at all. After lunch, Lei Tianrui pulled Dong Sihai aside and asked, "What's the matter? Did you remember the wrong position?" Dong Sihai said inexplicably, "It's impossible. I remember it very clearly. It's this position, and those vines are the man-eating vines." "Then what do you think is going on now? Why is he there? Nothing happened." Lei Tianrui said very discontentedly. "It's so strange. Are those vines dead?" Dong Sihai said unwillingly, "I'll go and have a look." Then he pretended to take a casual walk and slowly approached the direction of the man-eating vines. Even so, he was more careful, according to the memory of that year, to the edge of the safe zone. But he forgot that the man-eating vines themselves were plants, and plants could grow. The safe zone was the safe zone in the past, and now it was not safe. Just as he was standing there observing, before he could figure out what was going on, a soft sound suddenly came from the thicket. A long vine seemed to have come to life and fiercely shot towards Dong Sihai's face. Dong Sihai was shocked, but he was also a warrior in the 9th level of overt power. Although he was shocked, he didn't panic, and suddenly leaned to the side to avoid the vine. With a pu sound, the tree vine shot into an ancient tree behind him. This originally incomparably sturdy hemlock tree was actually pierced through by this long vine in an instant. It could be seen just how powerful the vine was. But it didn't end there. When he was about to retreat, there was a small sound, and more than a dozen vines entangled him again. This time, Dong Sihai was almost scared. He could barely cope with one vine, but more than a dozen came down at once, which was completely beyond his ability to cope with. At the same time, he didn't understand why Qin Haodong was here just now, but he was attacked by the man-eating vines as soon as he came over. But at this time, there was no time for him to think too much. He quickly pulled out the dagger from his waist and turned it into a knife light to cut these vines. Although most of the tree vines had been cut in half, there were still 2 that wrapped around his legs. These tree vines were as thick and powerful as a human's arms. In an instant, Dong Sihai was pulled to the ground and dragged forward. He was completely panicked. He had seen the scene of his companion being swallowed by the man-eating vines. He quickly waved the dagger in his hand to cut the vines at his feet, but the man-eating vines didn't give him the chance at all. Another 7 or 8 vines entangled him. Help! Dong Sihai waved the dagger to cut the vines in front of him while asking for help from his companions. At this time, Lei Tianrui, Zhao Qiankuan and others also came to their senses. They all grabbed their weapons and rushed to help Dong Sihai. Lei Tianrui was indeed a warrior in the covert power level. The long sword in his hand turned into a stream of light, and instantly cut off the 2 vines entangled Dong Sihai's feet. Zhao Qiankuan waved a big machete in his right hand, and pulled Dong Sihai up with his left hand. But the power of the man-eating vines was far beyond their imagination. When they were about to retreat, the vines in the whole forest seemed to come to life in an instant, and attacked them overwhelmingly. Chapter 207. As a master of covert power, Lei Tianrui didn't take the cannibal vine seriously from beginning to end. In his opinion, no matter how powerful it was, it couldn't be more powerful than him. So he didn't rush to leave after saving Dong Sihai. He stood there with a long sword in his hand. He had a desire to show his powerful fighting ability in front of Hu Shaoxian. But soon, facing the overwhelming vines, he regretted it. These things were much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Dozens of vines attacked Lei Tianrui from different angles in all directions. Some wrapped around his head, some rolled to his limbs, and some even directly swept the long sword in his hand. These vines acted according to their division of labor, advancing and retreating as if they were commanded by someone. Retreat! Lei Tianrui let out a loud shout, then waved the long sword in his hand to resist the attack of the cannibal vines. After the sword light rolled up, the vines wrapped around him were chopped into a lot of sawdust and fell to the ground. However, these cannibal vines seemed to be endless. When a vine was cut off, 2 vines immediately came to replace it, and the attack became more and more fierce. Although he withstood the attack with his profound cultivation, he could barely fight to a draw. It was impossible for him to retreat for the time being. Dong Sihai and Zhao Qiankuan didn't have the cultivation of Lei Tianrui. They had just reached the 9th level of overt power. In the face of the overwhelming vines, they were a little flustered. In the end, they stood back to back, each defending a direction. Then they barely withstood the attack, but they were unable to get out of the encirclement of the cannibal vines. At this time, Xie Zidong and Wang Yuanqing also took action outside. They didn't rush into the attack range of the cannibal vines. Instead, each of them held an AK and launched a crazy fire at the cannibal vines, trying to save the three companions inside. Although the pouring bullets broke some vines of the cannibal vines, there were so many vines that they covered the sky and the earth. These bullets were tantamount to putting out a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. They couldn't bring much help to the three people trapped inside. Seeing that her companions were in danger, Hu Shaoxian instinctively looked at Qin Haodong and asked in shock, "Haodong, what kind of monster is this?" "This plant is called the man-eating vine. Be it humans or animals, as long as they enter its attack range, they will be eaten by it." "Really? This is the first time I've heard of a plant that can eat people." Hu Shaoxian looked incredulous. "Of course it's real." Qin Haodong pointed to a tree more than 10 meters away, which was as thick as three people holding hands. "Look, that's its trunk." Hu Shaoxian looked in the direction of the finger. Sure enough, those overwhelming vines finally converged on the big tree, and the trunk was like a calm general, commanding his subordinates to attack Lei Tianrui and the other two. Looking down, there were piles of bones at the bottom of the tree trunk. Some of these bones belonged to wild beasts, while others belonged to humans. Now Hu Shaoxian believed him. She asked nervously, "Haodong, what should we do?" "Easy," Qin Haodong said. He took out 2 cans of beer, a can of Coke, and a bag of braised chicken wings from his backpack. He opened a can of beer and handed it to Hu Shaoxian. Then he opened a can of Coke and handed it to the little fellow next to him. Finally, he opened a bottle of beer himself. He took a sip and said, "It's great to drink and watch the show." He was not a Virgin Mary. These people had carefully set a trap for him. Now they were suffering. Did he have to go and save them? The little fellow had always been very cooperative with her father's proposal. She cried cheerfully, "Great! Great! There are chicken wings to eat and Coke to drink." After saying that, she grabbed a chicken wing and ate it in big bites. From time to time, she would take a sip of cola. Hu Shaoxian was completely stunned. She had never thought that Qin Haodong's easy would be this way in this case. At this time, the situation on Lei Tianrui's side changed again. The cannibal vines seemed to be intelligent. They found that this form of attack could not harm the three people. They immediately changed the way of fighting. Every time, they twisted 3 or 4 vines together and then launched attacks on several people. Although this method seemed very simple, it immediately changed the situation on the field. In the past, Lei Tianrui could cut the vines every time he waved his sword. But now he couldn't. Cutting 1 or 2 vines could not stop the attack of the cannibal vines. The consequence of not being able to cut off the vines when he was surrounded was very serious. Soon Lei Tianrui was broken through the encirclement by the ropes formed by the vines. They entangled his arms first, then his legs, and finally the sword in his hand was tightly entangled. "Help me! Help me!" At this point, Lei Tianrui was completely panicked. He shouted to his companions for help, while desperately running his internal force to break the vines on his body. But these vines were so tough that even the sword couldn't cut them, let alone his internal force. In the blink of an eye, he failed to break free. On the contrary, even his neck and head were entangled by the vines. The whole person looked like a green dumpling. Even he, a great master of the first level of covert power, was caught by the cannibal vines, not to mention Dong Sihai and Zhao Qianquan. The long knives and daggers in their hands were taken away by the cannibal vines. Then they were tied up like dumplings and lifted into the air. Seeing their companions in danger, Wang Yuanqing and Xie Zidong threw away the AK in their hands, picked up 2 machetes and rushed in. In fact, this was extremely stupid. They were tied up in less than 2 minutes after entering the attack range of the cannibal vines. The 5 people were hung in the air by the vines and slowly approached the main trunk of the cannibal vines. At this time, there was a big hole with a diameter of 1 meter on the thick trunk. It looked like a mouth to eat people. The most frightening thing was that there was white juice flowing out, which looked like saliva. Seeing the piles of white bones under the tree hole, Lei Tianrui and others were panicked and struggled desperately. But under the entanglement of the vines, their struggle had no effect at all. They could only watch the horrible tree hole getting closer and closer. Hu Shaoxian didn't make a move just now, but at this moment she could no longer sit still. As a member of the Xianyuan Pavilion, she couldn't just watch her companions become the food of the cannibal vines. You and Tang Tang stay here. Don't get close to that weird thing. After saying that, Hu Shaoxian pulled out her purple flash sword and rushed to the cannibal vines with a loud shout. Qin Haodong took another sip of beer, grabbed a chicken wing and said, "It's really stupid. It's useless to go there like this. It can only change the taste of the cannibal vines." The little fellow gnawed on the chicken wing and said, "Papa, can't Auntie Shaoxian beat that weird thing?" Qin Haodong said, "She can barely get in and out quickly, but it's impossible for her to save people. She can only get herself killed." Hu Xiaoxian's cultivation had reached the 2nd level of covert power, and the purple flash sword in her hand was also a precious sword. It was smooth when she just got in. Countless vines were cut off by her, and soon she got close to Lei Tianrui. However, the cannibal vines quickly adjusted their strategy. First, they twisted the vines together 3 times. Seeing that they still couldn't stop Hu Xiaoxian's attack, they changed to a thick rope of 6 or 7 vines. No matter how sharp the purple flash sword was, it couldn't cut off such thick vines at once. In the battle with the cannibal vines, if they couldn't cut off its vines, then there was only one result, being entangled by it. In this way, all 6 people in Lei Tianrui's group were caught by the cannibal vines and hung in the air. They were about to become food. The little fellow had a good relationship with Hu Shaoxian. Seeing that she was caught, she put down the chicken wing in her hand and cried, "Papa, do you want me to set fire to save Auntie Shaoxian?" Qin Haodong said quickly, "No, you can't. This is a big forest. You can't set fire, or the whole Shenangjia will be destroyed. Besides, setting fire will not only not save your Auntie Shaoxian, but also roast them together." What the little fellow released was innate fire. If it was burned by her, the whole Shenangjia would become a bare mountain in the future. The little fellow cried, "Papa, find a way to save Auntie Shaoxian. Don't worry. Auntie Shaoxian will be fine as long as Papa is here." Qin Haodong could sit down and drink and watch the show when others were caught, but he couldn't ignore Hu Shaoxian. He stood up, still holding the can of beer in his hand, and walked slowly towards the cannibal vines. Although Hu Shaoxian was tied up and hung up, she could still clearly see Qin Haodong walking over leisurely. This guy was drinking beer while walking. She really didn't know what he was thinking. Didn't he see how fierce the cannibal vines were? She screamed at the top of her voice, "Haodong, go back and leave with Tang Tang. It's too dangerous. Don't come here." In her opinion, although Qin Haodong had some skills, he was still much worse than her. Even she was caught by the abominable cannibal vines. Qin Haodong could only serve as food if he came in. Qin Haodong glanced at Hu Shaoxian, who looked anxious, and his heart was slightly warm. This woman was really sincere to him. At this time, she was still thinking about his safety. He said with a smile as he walked, "Don't be afraid. I'm a friend of it. It won't eat you for my sake." "You bastard, you're still joking at this time. Stop, or it's really over," Hu Shaoxian was shouting at the top of her voice, but she saw that Qin Haodong had stepped into the attack range of the cannibal vines. She suddenly closed her eyes. She didn't want to see her loved one also be caught by the cannibal vines. But after a while, she didn't hear the attack of the cannibal vines. On the contrary, a warm palm was patting her cheek, and a voice said jokingly, "Hey, what are you doing? You closed your eyes. This is not the time to sleep. Do you think this is a hammock?" Gu Shaoxian opened her eyes and saw Qin Haodong's handsome face in front of her. The vines of the cannibal vines were hanging aside and did not attack Qin Haodong. She asked with a surprised face, what the hell is going on? Why don't these things attack you?" Not only her, but the other 5 people were also very confused. Especially Dong Sihai. Today's plan was completely planned by him. He originally wanted to feed Qin Haodong to the cannibal vines, but he didn't expect that the cannibal vines didn't respond to Qin Haodong. Was this guy not to its taste? Qin Haodong said with a smile, "I told you, I'm good friends with it." Then he patted the vines on Hu Xiaoxian's body and said, "Let her go. This is my friend." Chapter 208. Hu Xiaoxian regained her freedom. She stood up and looked at the cannibal vines scattered on the ground. She couldn't believe it. She asked, "How did you do it?" "I told you they were my friends." Qin Haodong took Hu Xiaoxian's hand and said, "Let's go back and continue drinking." Seeing that Qin Haodong was going to leave without any intention to save them, the people who were still entangled by the cannibal vines panicked, especially Lei Tianrui, who was the closest to the tree hole. His mouth was tied by the vines and he couldn't make a sound. He could only make a muffled sound. Hu Xiaoxian came to herself and took Qin Haodong's hand and said, "Haodong, hurry up and save them. I don't know these people well. Why should I save them?" Qin Haodong said with a playful face, "And the cannibal vines are hungry. I can't let my friends starve all the time. They should eat something. You're still joking at a time like this." Hu Xiaoxian said anxiously, "Although they are not very friendly to you, you can't let them be eaten by the cannibal vines. It's a human life anyway." Qin Haodong was not moved and said, "They asked for it. It's no one else's fault." Hu Xiaoxian didn't know that Dong Sihai and others plotted to frame Qin Haodong. Seeing that Lei Tianrui was about to be thrown into the tree hole of the cannibal vines, she pulled out the purple lightning sword again and cried, "If you don't save them, I will. You are no match for them at all. Then I have to save them. After all, they are my companions. We should die together." Hu Xiaoxian was about to take action. Qin Haodong stopped her and said helplessly, "I'm afraid of you. I'll save them once for your sake." After that, he patted a nearby man-eating vine and said, "Okay, you can go hungry today. Put them all down for me." This time the cannibal vine seemed to be a little reluctant. Although it put them down, they were all thrown out. Lei Tianrui and others fell to the ground like rolling gourds. Seeing that her companions were saved, Hu Xiaoxian was finally relieved and said to Qin Haodong, "Thank you." After that, she took Qin Haodong's hand and walked to the little fellow who was still eating chicken wings. At this time, Lei Tianrui and the others got up from the ground. Dong Sihai glared at Qin Haodong and said, "Boy, you have the ability to subdue the cannibal vine. Why did you save us now?" Zhao Qinkuan also shouted, "Yes, you should have saved us long ago. Why did you take action now? They really are ingrates. They don't know how to be grateful at all." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "It's good enough that I can save you, and it's all for Xiaoxian's sake. Otherwise, whether you live or die has nothing to do with me." Lei Tianrui said, "Qin Haodong, don't forget that we saved you in that black shop. If we hadn't helped you in time, you would have been made into a stuffed bun by the fat boss. Yeah, you're the one who's ungrateful." A few others followed suit and shouted. Qin Haodong said lightly, "Do you think I care about those scumbags who run a black shop? If you hadn't come, they would have died even more miserably. Besides, it was Xiaoxian who really saved me. What does it have to do with you?" Xie Ziden said angrily, Anyway, we're companions. You should have helped us when you saw us in danger. Companions? Qin Haodong smiled disdainfully and said to Lei Tianrui and the others, do you think I don't know what you're thinking? When we were camping at noon, you deliberately left the direction of the cannibal vine to me. The purpose is to let the cannibal vine eat me. Is this what you call companions? They didn't expect that Qin Haodong had already seen through their thoughts. Lei Tianrui, Dong Sihai and the others couldn't help but feel embarrassed and speechless for a while. But it also meant that they acquiesced to Qin Haodong's statement. Is it true? Hu Shaoxian suddenly became annoyed. She just understood why Qin Haodong was unwilling to save them just now. It turned out that they asked for it. Zhao Qiankuan said to Qin Haodong angrily, so what? Shaoxian is the woman our boss likes. You're just an ordinary toy boy. How can a little doctor deserve Shaoxian? Hu Shaoxian said angrily, I like whoever I want. What does it have to do with you? Lei Tianrui said, Shaoxian, don't be fooled. He's just a toy boy who looks good but is useless. Hu Shaoxian scolded, shameless. You really have no conscience. Have you forgotten who just saved you? Dong Sihai said, so what? If it weren't for him, we wouldn't have camped here at all, and there would be no danger. Zhao Qiankuan said, Shaoxian, I'll show you what a real man is now. I'll show you that this toy boy has no ability at all. After that, he picked up a dagger and stepped toward Qin Haodong. How dare you? Hu Shaoxian shouted angrily. She pulled out the purple flash sword and stood in front of Qin Haodong to protect him. Qin Haodong didn't care at all. He pulled Hu Shaoxian to his side and said, don't worry. He's just a small shrimp. He can't make any trouble at all. Zhao Qiankuan was annoyed. After all, he was a warrior at the 9th level of overt power. He didn't take Qin Haodong seriously at all. However, he just took a few steps and before he came to Qin Haodong, he suddenly felt dizzy and fell to the ground. Although his mind was still clear, his body was getting more and more numb, and he slowly lost consciousness. Qiankuan, what's wrong with you? Dong Sihai had the best relationship with Zhao Qiankuan. He shouted and was about to help Zhao Qiankuan up, but he also fell to the ground with a thud. Then Lei Tianrui, Wang Yuancheng and Xie Ziden also fell to the ground. No, I'm poisoned. Lei Tianrui shouted and quickly mobilized the genuine qi in his dantian, trying to expel the poison from his body. But he was horrified to find that he had lost contact with the genuine qi in his dantian, and his body didn't respond at all. Hu Shaoxian was shocked. She turned to look at Qin Haodong and asked, what's going on? As soon as she finished speaking, she also felt dizzy and numb. She fell back. Fortunately, Qin Haodong was beside her and held her. Haodong, what's wrong with me? Hu Shaoxian asked in shock. She also felt that she was poisoned, but she didn't believe that it was Qin Haodong who did it. Qin Haodong slowly put Hu Shaoxian on the ground and said, you're all poisoned, but I didn't do it. Zhao Qiankuan cried, nonsense, so many people here were poisoned, only you were not poisoned. How can you say that you didn't do it? Hu Shaoxian said, are you brainless? Is it necessary for Haodong to poison you? If so, he just didn't save you. Why did he make it so troublesome? This. Zhao Qiankuan was stunned, and then cried, then why is he the only one who is fine? Qin Haodong didn't bother to pay attention to Zhao Qiankuan. He picked up a section of the cannibal vine that had just been cut off. He pointed to the small thorns on it and said to Hu Shaoxian, the poison in your body is from the cannibal vine. When the cannibal vine entangles its prey, it pierces the small thorns on the vines into the prey's body to release a kind of poison. This poison is actually the digestive fluid secreted by the cannibal vine. Its purpose is to digest the prey easily, but it is highly toxic to people. This kind of poison makes people feel dizzy at first and lose the ability to move their limbs. It won't take long for the body to begin to rot and die. At this time, the little fellow said, Papa, find a way to save Auntie Xiaoxian. Hu Xiaoxian also said nervously, Haodong, do you have any idea? If it was a simple death, it would not make her so afraid. But thinking that her body would rot first and then die, she could not accept it in any case. Qin Haodong said, you need to tie the knot to solve the problem. The antidote to the poison of the man-eating vine is its fruit. It's just that it's too difficult for ordinary people to get the fruit of the man-eating vine, but it's easy for me. After that, he snapped his fingers in the direction of the cannibal vine. Immediately, a vine wrapped a small green fruit and sent it to Qin Haodong's palm. Eat it, and you'll be back to normal soon. Qin Haodong said and stuffed the small green fruit into Hu Xiaoxian's ruddy mouth. Hu Xiaoxian did not hesitate and directly swallowed the fruit. It was strange that shortly after eating the fruit, her body slowly recovered. After 2 or 3 minutes, she stood up from the ground and the genuine qi in her body also resumed flowing. Everything was exactly the same as before. Xiaoxian, find a way to save us. It was Zhao Qiankuan who spoke. His poison was the first to take effect. At this time, he seemed to feel that his body was about to begin to rot. Hu Xiaoxian was also extremely dissatisfied with these people. But anyway, they were her companions. Moreover, this time they came to Shenangjia on behalf of the Xianyuan Pavilion, and there was still a task to be completed. Haodong, can you also save them? The little fellow said, no, they are so bad. They were fierce to Papa just now. Qin Haodong smiled slightly and said, Xiaoxian, you see, even Tang Tang can see that they are not good people. I just heard that you saved them once, but so what? They still bite the hand that feeds them. This time I won't help them again. Let them fend for themselves. After he said this, Lei Tianrui and others couldn't help but feel sad. If they couldn't get help in this big forest, there was only a way out for them. But they couldn't blame others for it. They had just offended Qin Haodong. Hu Xiaoxian glared at them, sighed and said, Haodong, I know they are wrong, but they are still lives after all. I can't just watch them die like this. Besides, I have a task this time and I need their help. Can you save them again for my sake? No. Qin Haodong said neatly, Xiaoxian, you have heard the story of Mr. Donghua and the wolf. I don't want to make this mistake again. What Qin Haodong said was reasonable. Lei Tianrui and others had really gone too far, which made Hu Xiaoxian speechless. But she couldn't just watch her companions die like this. She turned to them and shouted, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and apologize. If her companions apologized to Qin Haodong, it would be easier for them to plead later. Lei Tianrui was also a young master from a sect and had a certain status in the Xianyuan Pavilion. His grandfather was one of the 9 elders of the Xianyuan Pavilion. It was impossible for him to bow his head and apologize to a little doctor in normal times. But now the situation was different. If he didn't bow his head, he was afraid that there was only a way out for him. Zhao Qiankuan and others looked at Lei Tianrui together with a begging look in their eyes. Obviously, they were also afraid of death. Chapter 209. Dong Sihai and Zhao Qiankuan had been holding back for a long time. They wanted to beg for mercy for a long time, but they couldn't lower their heads before Lei Tianrui spoke. Now that Lei Tianrui had apologized, they hurriedly cried, Mr. Qin, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. We were wrong just now. Please save us again. Hu Xiaoxian said, Haodong, they have apologized. Anyway, we are all Wuxia compatriots. It's a human life. You are also a doctor. You can't just watch them being poisoned to death. Qin Haodong glanced at those people, sighed and said, well, since you said so, I'll save them again for the sake of being a doctor. Thank you, Dr. Qin. Thank you so much. Lei Tianrui and others were so nervous just now that they were afraid that Qin Haodong wouldn't help them. Now that he finally agreed, they hurriedly thanked him. Hu Shaoxian knew that Qin Haodong's help had a lot to do with her, so she said, "Haodong, I also thank you on behalf of them." "Don't thank me yet." Qin Haodong picked up the beer in front of him and took another sip. He said slowly, "Since I said that I am a doctor, I naturally have to charge for treating people, so I can't treat you for free." Hu Shaoxian said, "It's reasonable to charge. How much do you think each person should be charged?" Qin Haodong said, 1 million per person, not a penny less. 1 million? Isn't that a little too much? Lei Tianrui and others cried out in surprise. In their opinion, Qin Haodong would ask them for 10,000 or so. They didn't expect that he would ask for 1 million per person. Hu Shaoxian said, "Haodong, isn't it a little expensive?" "Expensive? Don't forget that it's a life-saving service. Isn't each of their lives worth 1 million? Qin Haodong said, "And it's for the sake of their Wuxia compatriots. You can check on the internet. How much did I pay for the elixir I sold to old Maldini last time? How much was the consultation fee?" Hu Shaoxian was speechless for a moment. When she first arrived in Jiangnan City, she had investigated Qin Haodong's identity. Naturally, she also knew that the consultation fee for old Maldini was 100 million. Later, he sold 3 elixirs for 10 million each. In this case, the price of 1 million for Lei Tianrui was not too high. She turned her head to look at Lei Tianrui and the others. None of them said a word. Although they were all rich children of aristocratic families, 1 million was not a small number. The most important thing was that they felt it was unfair to buy a fruit of the cannibal vine with this amount of money. Qin Haodong saw that these people were willing to sacrifice their lives but not their wealth, so he sneered and said, "As a doctor, I want to remind you that your body will ulcerate in 10 minutes at most. At that time, it will be useless to eat the fruits of the man-eating vines. There will be no cure. Therefore, this 1 million yuan is not for the fruits of the man-eating vines, but for your own lives. Whether it's worth it or not, you can decide for yourself." Hearing that, Lei Tianrui's heart skipped a beat. Although Qin Haodong might be bluffing them, they couldn't be careless when it came to their lives. What if it was true? Thinking of this, he said, "I agree to pay 1 million yuan for the consultation, but you have to cure me first." Qin Haodong smiled and said, "You people are not trustworthy, so you have to pay the bill first." "You." Lei Tianrui wanted to get angry, but at this time his life was at stake, so he had no capital to be angry. Finally, he had to let Hu Shaoxian take out his mobile phone to transfer 1 million yuan to Qin Haodong's account. After receiving the money, Qin Haodong looked at Dong Qiankuan and the others and said with a smile, "Who else wants to be treated? Pay up now. I'm telling you, I don't know how many fruits there are in the man-eating vines. If there are only 2 or 3, those who pay later will die." Zhao Qiankuan and the others were planning to force Qin Haodong to treat them after Lei Tianrui got rid of the toxins in his body, so that they could save a lot of money. But after hearing Qin Haodong's words, they didn't dare to hesitate anymore. They rushed to shout, "I'm willing to pay. I'm willing to pay 1 million yuan. Then Hu Shaoxian took out their mobile phones and paid the money to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong looked at the number on the mobile phone and nodded with satisfaction. Then he turned to the man-eating vines and 5 bright green fruits were sent to him. Qin Haodong handed the fruits to Hu Shaoxian and asked her to give them to Lei Tianrui and the others. It didn't take long for these people to get rid of the toxins and regain their ability to move. After feeling their bodies recovered, these people were ecstatic at first, and then they couldn't help but feel sad when they thought of the 1 million yuan taken by Qin Haodong. "Damn it, I must burn this monster." Zhao Qiankuan didn't want to get even with Qin Haodong. He took out a lighter and gasoline from the car and wanted to set fire to the man-eating vines to vent his anger. Hu Shaoxian kicked the lighter in his hand and said angrily, "You are crazy. What is this place? Once you set it on fire, the whole Shenangjia will be destroyed. At that time, you can't pay for it even if you die 100 times. Zhao Qinkuan also recovered some of his senses. He knew that it was impossible to set fire, so he could only put away the gasoline embarrassedly. Lei Tianrui looked at Qin Haodong angrily, waved his hand and said, "Get in the car, let's go." Qin Haodong also got in the car with the little fellow and Hu Shaoxian. They left and went on. Soon after they left, 5 black figures came here. They were the 5 people of the devilish 5 who had been following them. "What's the matter, boss? It's a mess here. It seems that someone has just fought." The one who spoke was a very ugly man. He was fat with a high belly and his face was full of black bumps the size of peanuts. He looked very ugly and disgusting. He was the toad of the 5 poisons. Then he was about to go forward to check, but he was grabbed back by the one-eyed man. "Don't go there. It's the man-eating vines ahead. You will die if you go there." Man-eating vines? After hearing the one-eyed man's words, the others' expressions changed. As members of the mercenary group, they had all heard of the man-eating vines. It was a nightmare to encounter such things in the forest. Black Widow asked, "Boss Scorpion, have those people been eaten by the man-eating vines?" "No, they are still alive." The one-eyed man said seriously. "How is it possible? They will die if they encounter the man-eating vines. How can they survive?" Black Widow looked surprised. The one-eyed man pointed to the main trunk of the man-eating vines and said, "Look, there are no fresh bones over there, which proves that the man-eating vines have not eaten people." He turned back and pointed to the direction of the 2 Hummers. "Look here, they continue to move forward, which means there is no problem at all. Does it mean that they also know the man-eating vines and did not enter its attack range?" The tall and thin centipede asked. The one-eyed man pointed to the broken branches of the man-eating vines in front of them and said, "No, these people not only entered the attack range, but also fought with the man-eating vines. It seems that they won. Oh my God, they can defeat the man-eating vines. They are so strong." Black Widow cried in surprise. "Isn't the man-eating vines invincible in the forest? How could they be defeated by these people?" Toad asked. The one-eyed man said, "I don't know the details. Anyway, we can see from the scene that they did fight with the man-eating vines and left here alive." The woman in red said, "Boss, since they are so strong, can we still succeed in this mission?" The one-eyed man smiled and said, "So what if they are strong? Our devilish 5 mercenary group relies on poison. When have we ever fought with others face to face?" Then he took out a small white jade bottle from his pocket and said, "This is my latest muscle-weakening poison. This thing combines the toxicity of scorpions, toads, spiders, snakes, and centipedes. The rarest thing is that it is colorless and odorless, and it will drift with the wind. As long as we find an upwind vent and spread the tendon-weakening poison, it will only take a few minutes for them to become obedient shrimps. At that time, we can do whatever we want with them and play with them however we want." Toad said, "That's great, boss. You are indeed the leader of the devilish 5 mercenary group. You can even make this kind of thing. It's nothing. I was a poison master in the past." The one-eyed man said modestly, but there was a touch of irrepressible pride on his face. The woman in red said with a charming smile, "Boss, how is the effect of your muscle-weakening poison? Can I still use those men after they are poisoned?" The centipede said with a lewd smile, "I don't know if the men can be used, but the women can. Then the beautiful woman named Hu Shaoxian will be ours. Well, don't talk nonsense. Let's go and try to get ahead of them before it gets dark." After saying that, the one-eyed man quickly moved forward with several people and quickly disappeared into the jungle. Qin Haodong and the others kept moving forward. When it was getting dark, they found a suitable place to camp. He looked at the map drawn by Dilong. It was exactly the same direction as Lei Tianrui and the others. It seemed that they were probably going to the same goal. After a simple camp, Lei Tianrui and the others looked at Qin Haodong with a sneer. No one knew what they were planning. Dong Sihai caught a wild deer from somewhere and roasted it on the campfire. The fragrance was very fragrant. Soon dinner was ready, but it was different this time. Zhao Qiankuan said to Hu Shaoxian, come here for dinner. Hu Shaoxian said to Qin Haodong, it's time to eat. Before Qin Haodong could respond, Zhao Qiankuan said, Shaoxian, we don't have much equipment and food, so we can only provide food for our own people. He looked at Qin Haodong and said, if outsiders want to eat, they can. 1 million yuan for a meal. They can eat if they pay. If they don't pay, there's nothing we can do. Hu Shaoxian said angrily, how can you do that? Don't forget that Haodong just saved you. Zhao Qiankuan said, I remember that, but we paid 5 million yuan for 5 people. Since we paid for the treatment, it's natural for him to pay for the meal. Hu Shaoxian wanted to say something, but she was stopped by Qin Haodong. He said carelessly, go ahead. It's just a meal. Tang and I can solve it ourselves. You can solve it? Don't you see where we are? This is Shenangjia. Do you think it's so easy to hunt? If Dong Sihai wasn't a jungle expert, we could only eat dry food. While Zhao Qiankuan was talking, Qin Haodong picked up a stone from the ground and threw it at a nearby bush. With a bang, a wild rabbit hiding there was hit by the stone and vomited blood and fell to the ground. Chapter 210. Zhao Qiankuan was confused. He couldn't understand why Qin Haodong could hit a hare with a stone without looking at it. What kind of ability was that? Even Dong Sihai, a jungle expert, couldn't do that. What he didn't know was that Qin Haodong, as the Emperor Greenwood, could see all the flowers and trees within 100 meters, even though his cultivation had not been restored. He was very clear about what was happening around him, including where the prey was. Qin Haodong ignored him. He raised his hand and shot down an unknown big bird. Then he began to clean up. Hu Shaoxian didn't leave either. She stayed there and worked with Qin Haodong. Her barbecue skills were excellent. Soon the aroma spread around. It didn't take long for the meat to be roasted. Qin Haodong magically took out a bottle of red wine and a bottle of juice from his backpack. He opened the juice for the little fellow and poured a glass of red wine for Hu Shaoxian and himself. Hu Shaoxian took a sip and then picked up the red wine bottle in surprise. She cried, "Is this 1982 La Fight?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "That's what the wine seller said." Hu Shaoxian looked at his small backpack and asked, "I'm wondering where you put all these things. It doesn't look big. How can there be red wine?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "This is my universal bag. I can get whatever I want." Nonsense again. Hu Shaoxian didn't believe it at all, but she didn't continue the topic. She raised her glass and clinked glasses with Qin Haodong again. It was Lei Tianrui who came up with the idea of not providing food for Qin Haodong. He originally wanted to take this opportunity to see Qin Haodong make a fool of himself and get back all the 5 million. At that time, he could blackmail Qin Haodong again. But he didn't succeed at this time. On the contrary, Qin Haodong was eating and drinking. Even the 1982 La Fight was out. The standard of food was much better than his. Dong Sihai glanced over and said angrily, "Brother, what should we do?" Wang Yuanqing said, "What should we do? I don't believe that he can carry much with that backpack. After eating today, let's see what he will eat tomorrow. Sooner or later, he will kneel down and beg for mercy." Zhao Qiankuan said, "No, I can't wait. I must go to find that guy now." Dong Sihai asked, "What do you want to do?" Zhao Qiankuan smiled and said, "This kid follows us every day. At night, we stand guard. Otherwise, we would have been fed to the wolves in the jungle. In this case, it's not too much for us to ask him for some protection fees, right? After that, he looked at Lei Tianrui and asked, "Boss, what do you think?" "Go ahead." Lei Tianrui nodded. Although he was shrewd, he had apologized to Qin Haodong at noon and paid 1,000,000 yuan as compensation. As a proud young master of an aristocratic family, how could he bear such grievances? Naturally, he was full of anger. Therefore, Zhao Qianquan wanted to make trouble for Qin Haodong, which was exactly what he wanted. With Lei Tianrui's permission, Zhao Qianquan threw away the remaining bone in his hand. Then he stood up and walked toward Qin Haodong. "Papa, the big bad guy is here." When the little fellow saw Zhao Qianquan, she immediately took Qin Haodong's hand and cried. But there was no fear on her face. On the contrary, she was a little excited. "Ignore him. Let's eat." After that, Qin Haodong picked up the red wine glass and gently clinked it with Hu Shaoxian. Then he slowly sipped it. Seeing Zhao Qianquan coming over, Hu Shaoxian frowned and asked, "What do you want?" "I want to collect some money from this kid." Zhao Qianquan said aggressively. "What money?" Hu Shaoxian asked with a cold face. "Protection fees." Zhao Qianquan said and turned to look at Qin Haodong. He sneered and said, "Boy, you follow us every day. If it weren't for us, you would have been fed to the wolves in Shenangjia. It's not too much to ask you for protection fees, is it?" He hadn't seen Qin Haodong fight until now. Although he had subdued the cannibal vine, in his opinion, he had used some strange means. It didn't prove how high Qin Haodong's cultivation was. Qin Haodong smiled disdainfully and said, "Why didn't I see you protecting me?" Zhao Qianquan said, "Boy, don't play dumb with me. We take turns to stand guard every night." Hu Shaoxian knew very well that Zhao Qianquan was looking for trouble with Qin Haodong. She said discontentedly, "Zhao Qianquan, don't go too far. Don't forget that it was Haodong who saved you at noon." Zhao Qianquan said, "It's true that he saved us at noon, but it was just an accident. Besides, we paid for it. There's no need to thank him at all, so he must pay some protection fees." Qin Haodong asked, "How much are you going to charge?" Zhao Qianquan said, 1,000,000. It's already a very cheap price. You know, we are all masters. 1,000,000. Qin Haodong laughed and said, "What if I don't pay?" Zhao Qianquan rolled up his sleeves and said, "It's fine if you don't pay. Then let me see if you have real ability. If you have the ability, you naturally don't need our protection." His real purpose was to force Qin Haodong to fight and teach the toy boy a lesson. So he suddenly raised the price of the protection fee to 1,000,000. Qin Haodong didn't take Zhao Qianquan seriously. Although they were both at the 9th level of overt power, his knowledge and experience were not comparable to any warrior. What's more, this was Shenangjia, surrounded by primeval forests with inexhaustible qi of essence of wood. This was his home field. Not to mention Zhao Qianquan, even Lei Tianrui, who had reached the level of covert power, was no match for him. He was just about to get up and teach this ungrateful guy a lesson. Suddenly, his expression changed, and then he said, "I can pay the protection fee, but are you sure you can protect me?" "Of course, haven't I already told you that we are all masters?" Zhao Qianquan said confidently. "How dare you call yourself a master with your poor kung fu? How dare you ask others for protection fees? Well, each of you pays me 1,000,000 protection fees, and I can protect you." "What? Are you crazy?" Zhao Qianquan was so angry that he didn't know whether this guy was careless or mentally ill. How dare he ask him for protection fees, and it was 1,000,000 per person. Qin Haodong smiled and said, "It's okay if you don't pay now. You will beg me to pay later. Boy, you are courting death." Zhao Qianquan shouted and took a step forward. He was about to attack Qin Haodong, but suddenly he felt dizzy. Then he lost all his strength and fell to the ground with a plop. Lei Tianrui and others had been watching the movement here. Seeing Zhao Qinkuan suddenly fall, the remaining 4 people stood up. "Boy, what did you do?" Lei Tianrui shouted coldly. When he was about to walk over, he suddenly felt weak in his hands and feet, and then fell to the ground with a plop. Then Dong Sihai, Wang Yuancheng, and Zhao Zaidan also fell to the ground. At this time, they were very conscious, but they couldn't lift any strength, as if their muscles had been melted, and they couldn't even move their fingers. "Haodong, what's wrong?" As soon as Hu Shaoxian said that, she saw Qin Haodong and the little fellow fell to the ground together, and their bodies were as soft as a puddle of mud. When she was about to check the situation, she also felt weak in her limbs and fell beside Qin Haodong. Lei Tianrui originally thought that it was Qin Haodong who poisoned them, but when he saw Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian also fell to the ground, he immediately denied this idea. But if it wasn't Qin Haodong, who else could be in this big forest? Just when he was puzzled, there was a burst of arrogant laughter behind him. 5 people in strange clothes came out. It was the devilish 5 who had been following them. Centipede said, "Boss Scorpion, your tendon-weakening poison is really useful. Just a little bit of it, and these people became weak. Of course, you didn't see who developed this poison." Toad gently flattered the one-eyed dragon. He looked very proud, obviously enjoying it very much. The woman in red stepped to Qin Haodong's side, looked at him up and down, and praised, "You're really handsome, but I don't know if you can still get hard after eating 5 tendon-weakening poison. It's a pity if you can't use it." After that, she turned around and kicked Zhao Qinkuan hard in the stomach. "Look at you. You're ugly, and you even learned to collect protection fees from others. Do you have the ability to protect others?" Zhao Qinkuan was speechless. Zhao Qinkuan was in so much pain that he felt that his intestines were broken, but he couldn't move at all. Lei Tianrui pulled himself together and asked, "Who the hell are you? What do you want?" Dong Sihai followed and said, "Do you know who we are? Let us go now, or you can't afford the consequences." One-eyed dragon sneered and said, "It doesn't matter who you are, and it doesn't matter who we are. What's important is that someone paid 10 million for your lives. As long as we kill all of you, we can make a fortune." Centipede followed and said, "I thought this task would be difficult, but I didn't expect it to be so simple. You guys are too weak. It's really not challenging at all." Lei Tianrui cried, "Let us go, and we can give you 20 million. One-eyed dragon said, "Don't dream. Do you think we're fools? How dare you take money from the Shenyuan Pavilion?" Dong Sihai said, "Since you know who we are, you still dare to kill us. Aren't you afraid of the revenge of the Shenyuan Pavilion?" "Of course we're afraid. There are few people in the world who dare to provoke the Shenyuan Pavilion." One-eyed dragon said, "But wealth comes from danger. This is Shenangjia. If we kill you quietly and do it cleanly, let alone the Shenyuan Pavilion, even the immortals won't know that we did it." There was a flash of despair in Lei Tianrui's eyes. It was true. In the desolate primeval forest, even if they were killed, it would be difficult for the Shenyuan Pavilion to find out who the murderer was. Centipede said, "Boss, should we send them on their way now?" Toad said with a lewd smile, "Don't worry, there's a great beauty over there. It's a pity to kill her like this. Wait for me, the toad, to eat swan meat first, and then I'll kill them." The woman in red also said, "Boss, I also want to see if that handsome little guy can still get hard. It's also a test for your muscle-weakening poison." One-eyed dragon said, "Well, you guys hurry up. Don't waste too much time." Seeing that Scorpion agreed, the woman in red and Toad excitedly walked toward Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian. Toad looked at the extremely beautiful Hu Shaoxian, swallowed hard and said, "Beauty, as long as you serve me well, I'll let you die soon." Chapter 211. Toad suddenly got angry. His skin had mutated because he had been soaking in poisonous water all year round. He was as ugly as a toad, so he got the name Toad. But the more he cared about his appearance, the more he cared about it. His biggest taboo was to be called ugly. He turned his head and saw the little fellow next to Qin Haodong. At this time, Tang Tang covered her eyes with her hands, as if she couldn't bear to look at him. "Little bastard, you're courting death." In his anger, he forgot to think about how the little fellow raised her hand. He directly stretched out his ugly big hand to grab Tang Tang. "Take your stinky hand off me." After an angry roar, the toad's body was kicked away like a rubber ball for more than 10 meters before crashing into an old tree with a bang. This guy was also unlucky. After falling, he just hit a hedgehog. Suddenly, he screamed and jumped up again. Hedgehog on the butt of a toad. So funny. The little fellow looked at Toad's miserable appearance and cried happily. It was Qin Haodong who kicked Toad. His action immediately shocked Scorpion and others. They didn't expect that someone could still move under the effect of muscle-weakening poison. "Who are you? You're not afraid of my poison?" Scorpion stared at Qin Haodong and said. Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Do you think your little tricks are poisonous?" As soon as Scorpion and others entered within 100 meters of him, he noticed it. He closed his breath and pores in advance, so he was not poisoned. The little fellow had the Suzaku's sacred body, so she didn't care about this simple poison at all. After receiving Qin Haodong's voice transmission, she cooperated and fell to the ground. Others were really poisoned, and the father and daughter just cooperated to put on a play in order to lead Scorpion and others out. "Boy, don't be complacent. You're doomed to die when you meet our devilish five," Centipede said and raised his hand to poison Qin Haodong again. But suddenly he felt dizzy and then lost consciousness. "You used poison." As a poison master, Scorpion immediately noticed that something was wrong. "Who said that only you can use poison and I can't?" Qin Haodong laughed and said, "How about it? The taste of my ecstasy powder is not bad, right?" Just now, when the devilish five appeared, he took out a bewitching pill from his storage ring and crushed it. Although this kind of pill was casually refined by him when he was refining the big strengthening elixir, its quality was extremely high, and it was a prescription from the cultivation world. It was colorless and odorless in the air, so Scorpion and others were poisoned without any awareness. "Run!" Scorpion realized that he had met an expert today. After a shout, he turned around and was about to run away. But how could he run away after being drugged by ecstasy? Before he could take 2 steps, he fell to the ground with a plop. After him, the Black Widow, the Toad, the Centipede, and the woman in red all fell to the ground. All the people of the Xianyuan Pavilion, including Hu Shaoxian, were knocked out. Only Qin Haodong and the little fellow were still awake. The effect of this medicine is pretty good. Qin Haodong nodded with satisfaction. Then he took out a small black pill and stuffed it into Hu Shaoxian's mouth. This was the antidote to the ecstasy pill. Soon Hu Shaoxian woke up again. After opening her eyes, Hu Shaoxian saw that all the people of the devilish five had fainted on the ground. She breathed a sigh of relief. If she had really been defiled by that ugly toad, she would not have lived for the rest of her life. She asked, "Haodong, what the hell is going on? These people are here to kill you." "I don't know what's going on, but these people have been drugged by me. You can ask them later," Qin Haodong said as he took out the silver needles and began to detoxify Hu Shaoxian. 5 minutes later, Hu Shaoxian opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of black water. All the muscle-weakening poison in her body was cleared. After the black water was spat out on the ground, the grass immediately withered, which showed how toxic it was. "Aunt Shaoxian, drink water." The little fellow took a bottle of mineral water and gave it to Hu Shaoxian. Hu Shaoxian touched Tang Tang's cheek, took the water to rinse her mouth, and drank half of the bottle in one breath. Her body had completely recovered to the state before she was poisoned. She asked doubtfully, Haodong, we were all poisoned. Why are you fine? Qin Haodong said with a smile, I'm a doctor. How can I be poisoned so easily? The poisoner didn't poison you, but you poisoned him. I really don't know how you did it. Hu Shaoxian said, Haodong, please detoxify them. She pointed to Lei Tianrui and the other 4 people, looking a little embarrassed. After all, Qin Haodong had saved these people once, but these people not only did not appreciate it, but also bit the hand that fed them. At this time, she secretly rejoiced that it was absolutely the wisest choice to invite Qin Haodong to join them this time, otherwise they would have been buried in the big forest of Shenangjia. Let's talk about them later. Let's get rid of these people first. Qin Haodong said as he kicked the hedgehogs on the toad's buttocks away. He raised his hand to seal their acupoints, and then removed the ecstasy pill from their bodies. After the one-eyed man regained consciousness, his first reaction was to run quickly, but he found that he couldn't even move his little finger. Who the hell are you? What do you want? He stared at Qin Haodong with his one eye and asked. Since his debut, he had never met anyone who was not afraid of his poison. The young man in front of him was obviously poisoned by the muscle-weakening poison, but nothing happened, which showed that he was absolutely a tough character. Qin Haodong raised his hand and slapped him in the face. He said coldly, now is the time for me to ask you. What qualifications do you have to ask me? The slap was heavy and loud. Half of the one-eyed man's face suddenly swelled, and several teeth fell out. He was so angry that his eyes were full of fire. Boy, don't be too arrogant. Don't forget that your companions have been poisoned by me. Although you are not afraid of the muscle-weakening poison, they will be useless for the rest of their lives without my antidote. In his opinion, the reason why Qin Haodong didn't kill him was to get the antidote of the muscle-weakening poison. This was his last card. Qin Haodong slapped him on the other cheek with the back of his hand. It's just a little poison. How dare you negotiate with me as a capital? Who gave you the courage? Boy, the muscle-weakening poison is my exclusive secret recipe. No one can cure it without my antidote. Qin Haodong kicked him to the ground. Don't you still have one eye? How can you be blind? Can't you see that my companions have been cured? This is impossible. The one-eyed man couldn't believe the facts in front of him when he saw Hu Shaoxian who was shining. Who was this young man? How could he cure the poison of the muscle-weakening poison? Qin Haodong said to Hu Shaoxian, these people are coming for you. You can ask them. But be careful not to touch this guy's body. His body is full of poison. Hu Shaoxian nodded and came to the one-eyed man and asked, tell me, who asked you to come? Seeing that they were completely screwed today, the one-eyed man said dejectedly, we are the Devilish Five. A few days ago, someone posted a reward on the deep web and offered 10 million yuan to kill you. We thought it was a good opportunity to make a fortune, so we took the task. Hu Shaoxian frowned and asked, how did you know we were coming to Shenangjia? It was the message given to us by the employer. He told us to wait for you at the entrance of Shenangjia. After hearing the one-eyed man's answer, Hu Shaoxian's heart skipped a beat. The task of the Shenyuan pavilion was extremely secretive, but the other party knew that they would come to Shenangjia, which was very terrible. She asked, who is the employer? How can I contact them? The one-eyed man said, you should also know the rules of the deep web. The mercenary group that takes the task never knows who the employer is. Hu Shaoxian asked a few more questions, and finally even used hypnosis, but she didn't get much useful information. After the interrogation, Qin Haodong directly found a rope to tie all 5 people up and threw them into the depths of the forest to let them fend for themselves. After everything was done, Qin Haodong looked back at Hu Shaoxian, who had a serious face, and asked, what are you thinking about? Hu Shaoxian said, I'm thinking, what's the problem? Who is the employer? How did he know we were coming to Shenangjia? Qin Haodong said, "What kind of task are you going to perform this time? This is the organization's secret, but you are not an outsider, so I'll tell you the truth." Hu Shaoxian said, "A few days ago, the organization's intelligence department suddenly got a map. It is said that it is a treasure handed down from ancient times, so they sent us, the Xian department of the Xianyuan Pavilion, to see what it is." "What kind of treasure is it?" Qin Haodong asked. "I don't know the details, but we got a treasure map. According to the map, it is deep in Shenangjia." Hu Shaoxian said as she took out a shabby sheepskin map and sent it to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong took the map and looked at it. Although the sheepskin map looked very simple, his powerful spirit could perceive that it had no spiritual qi at all. It was definitely a forged new product. What shocked him was that the location marked on the map was basically the same as the one Dilong had drawn for him, but the drawing technique was not the same, but the location should be the same. This was a bit strange. If this map was fake, and the purpose of the forgery was to kill these people from the Xianyuan Pavilion, why was the location exactly the same as the ancient tomb he knew? Where did this map come from? Qin Haodong asked. It was given to us by the intelligence department. We don't know exactly where they got it. Hu Shaoxian asked doubtfully, "What's the problem?" Qin Haodong told Hu Shaoxian about his trip to Shenangjia to explore the underground palace, and then expressed his doubts. "This map was forged by someone. The purpose is to attract you here, but the purpose is unclear. The location marked on the map is real. It's not clear whether it is the treasure or not, but there is an ancient tomb here." Hu Shaoxian said, "That's strange. If someone gets the treasure, he will dig it himself. How could he let others know?" Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, "Is it possible that someone else got the real treasure map, but he couldn't open the treasure, so he made a fake one and spread it out, deliberately attracting the people of your Xianyuan Pavilion to come over, wanting to borrow your hands to open the treasure?" His inference was well-founded. According to the Dilong, there must be a formation outside the underground palace, and ordinary people naturally could not enter. Hu Shaoxian said, "Since he wants us to help him open the ancient tomb, why did he send people to kill us midway? Is it possible that the person who spread the map and the person who hired the Devilish Five are not the same?" The two discussed for a while and finally did not get a clear answer. But one thing was certain. There was someone behind this matter, which meant that this trip to the underground palace would not be peaceful. Qin Haodong said, "Forget it. Let's be careful." Chapter 212. Hu Shaoxian pointed to Lei Tianrui and the others and said, "Haodong, we have to go to the underground palace anyway. One more person means one more force. You'd better save them." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "I can detoxify them, but I can't let them go so easily." After that, he gave the 5 people the antidote of the ecstasy pill, and then put them side by side. After they recovered their senses, they slowly opened their eyes. They were very surprised to see Hu Shaoxian and Qin Haodong standing in front of them happily, but the Devilish Five had disappeared. Lei Tianrui asked, "Shaoxian, what's going on? Where's the one-eyed man? Who are they?" "They're mercenaries." Hu Shaoxian told them what had happened, but she didn't tell them Qin Haodong in her speculation. Hearing that it was Qin Haodong who poisoned the Devilish Five and saved them again, the 5 people felt lucky for a while and then looked embarrassed. They just ran to Qin Haodong to collect protection fees, but in the blink of an eye, they had to rely on him to save their lives. It was a slap in the face. After the embarrassment, Zhao Qiankuan said, "Shaoxian, help us detoxify the poison as soon as possible. Now we can't move anything except our mouths. We're just useless." Hu Shaoxian said, "It was Haodong who detoxified me. I'm not a doctor. How can I detoxify you?" Well, the 5 people suddenly fell into silence, and no one spoke. Although they were all thick-skinned, it was always a little embarrassing to ask Qin Haodong for help at this time. Finally, Lei Tianrui sighed and looked at Qin Haodong, who was smiling, and said, "Tell me, how can you detoxify us?" Qin Haodong pointed to Zhao Qiankuan and said, "I just told this guy that you should pay me protection fees. 1 million yuan for each person. Pay the money first." Lei Tianrui also knew that he could only spend money now. No matter how much money he had to save his life. He said to Hu Shaoxian, "Help us pay." Hu Shaoxian laughed and took out their mobile phones to transfer money to Qin Haodong. A few minutes later, Qin Haodong had 5 million more in his pocket. "Can you detoxify us now?" Lei Tianrui said. "This is the protection fee. I've already helped you get rid of the devilish 5 and saved your lives, so it's not much to charge you 1 million each." Qin Haodong said with a smile, "If you want to see a doctor, you have to pay a medical fee. 1 million yuan per person. The price is fair and honest." Seeing that Qin Haodong still wanted more money, Zhao Qiankuan said discontentedly, "You, Qin Haodong, don't go too far." "Am I going too far? With what you've done, it's already very kind of me to treat you." Qin Haodong sneered, "I now announce that the consultation fee will be increased by 2 million yuan per person. Moreover, this is the current price. After 10 minutes, the price will increase to 3 million per person. It's up to you whether you want to treat them or not." After saying that, he took out a pack of checkers from his backpack and went to play with the little fellow, not even looking at them. Lei Tianrui hesitated for a moment and said to Hu Shaoxian, "Shaoxian, you have the best relationship with him. Please help us." Hu Shaoxian said with a cold face, "What for? I've already helped you once last time, but now look at what you've done. First, you want to sell him food, then you want to charge him protection fee, and now you want me to beg for him. I'm not that shameless." Well. Although Lei Tianrui hated Qin Haodong to death, he had nothing to say. Dong Sihai said, "Boss, what should we do?" "What else can we do? Pay up." Lei Tianrui said angrily. "But if we pay now, won't we lose face?" Zhao Qiankuan said. "Is face more important than life? The price will increase again after a while." Lei Tianrui completely tasted the feeling of being trampled on. He couldn't be left in the big forest like a vegetable. He had to completely put down his face and cried to Qin Haodong, "Dr. Qin, we're willing to pay." Qin Haodong finished the chess in his hand, turned to look at him and said, "Have you made up your mind? Don't force yourself. Don't force yourself. Really don't force yourself." Lei Tianrui's words completely jumped out from his molars. Qin Haodong said with a little regret, "It's a pity. I thought you could hold on for dozens of minutes." Lei Tianrui and the other 4 were speechless. But now their lives were in the hands of Qin Haodong, they didn't dare to say no. They could only obediently let Hu Shaoxian transfer the money for them. 5 minutes later, Qin Haodong's account added 10 million yuan. He took out the silver needles and began to detoxify these people. About 10 minutes later, Qin Haodong cleaned all the toxins in Lei Tianrui and the other 4, and then took the little fellow and Hu Shaoxian back to the tent to sleep. 10 million yuan in 10 minutes. That's F***king fast. Zhao Qiankuan looked at Qin Haodong and said angrily. Seeing that the distance between him and the woman he liked was getting farther and farther, Lei Tianrui's face became more and more gloomy. Xie Ziden said, "Forget it. Let's take a rest. Anyway, he saved us this time." Dong Sihai cried, "Should we thank him? You didn't see how he hit us when we were down. He asked us for 10 million yuan for such a small thing." Well. Xie Ziden shook her head and didn't argue anymore. She went straight back to her tent to rest. Zhao Qiankuan said to Lei Tianrui, "Boss, what should we do next?" "Don't worry. Let's take it one step at a time." Lei Tianrui said with a gloomy face, "Although this guy knows some strange things and his medical skills are passable, this is Shenangjia after all. What matters in the end is real ability. I don't think he wants to leave in a short time. We'll deal with him when we find the right opportunity. Dong Sihai said, boss is right. There will be a time when he needs to ask us. When that time comes, we'll ask him for 100 million yuan at once to make up for all the losses. Lei Tianrui said with a gloomy face, we've lost not only money but also face. I must kill this kind of person. It was a quiet night. After breakfast the next day, Qin Haodong and the others continued to the depths of Beacon Mountain. Soon after they left, a dozen men in black appeared at the place where they camped. These people were tightly covered from head to toe. They also wore black masks on their faces and carried slender neon swords on their backs. The leader was different. He was wearing a traditional neon samurai suit with a white cherry blossom embroidered on his cuff. He was not masked, and a neon sword was slung across his waist. Not long after they arrived, a ninja in black picked up the Black Widow and threw her in front of the neon samurai. Lord Jonin, only one of these 5 people is alive. The others have been killed by wild beasts. One is enough. I just want to ask a few questions. The neon samurai waved his hand and let the ninja in black leave. Then he stepped in front of the Black Widow. You're so useless. You failed the task. The Black Widow looked at the neon man with confusion. After hearing his words, she immediately looked surprised and cried, "You're the one who issued the task." The neon samurai said, "You don't need to know so much. Just tell me how you failed." The Black Widow knew very well that her life was in the hands of the neon people. She told them what had happened from beginning to end and finally said, "It was going well, but there was a poison master among them. Not only was he not poisoned by us, but he poisoned us instead." "What did he look like?" the neon samurai asked. "A very handsome young man, about 20 years old, with a little girl of 3 or 4 years old." "A poison master with a child?" the neon samurai said to a ninja next to him with a puzzled look. "When did such a master appear in the Xian department of the Shenyuan Pavilion in Huaxia?" "Lord Jonin, we don't know. We've never heard of a master with a child in Huaxia before. Maybe it's the hidden power of the Shenyuan Pavilion." The ninja lowered his head and said, "But don't worry, Lord. We'll try our best to find out in the future." The Black Widow said, "Sir, I've told you everything I know. Please let me go for the sake of our cooperation." "Let you go?" A trace of viciousness flashed across the neon samurai's face. "You're a loser. What face do you have to live in this world? Go find your companions." Then he waved his hand. The ninja next to him waved his long knife and the Black Widow's head immediately flew into the air. After throwing the Black Widow's body into the woods, the ninja came to the neon samurai and said respectfully, "Lord Jonin, there's one thing I don't quite understand. Why did you issue this task? Why did you find these people to snipe the people of the Shenyuan Pavilion?" The neon samurai smiled grimly and said, "The treasure map we got is very important. There used to be many very powerful cultivators in Huaxia. I guess this underground palace was left by them. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a powerful formation in front of the door. If we can get the treasures in the underground palace, I guess it will be of great benefit to our Yamamoto family. Unfortunately, we don't know formations, so we need the help of Huaxia people to break the formation guarding the underground palace." "So you deliberately made a fake treasure map and arranged for the intelligence department of the Shenyuan Pavilion to get it?" The neon samurai nodded and said, "That's right. There are all kinds of talents in the Shenyuan department of the Shenyuan Pavilion. They must be able to break this underground palace." The ninja asked again, "But since you want them to break the underground palace, why did you hire a legion to snipe them?" The neon samurai said, "There are still many masters in Huaxia. I'm afraid that the news of the underground palace will attract too many masters, so I said it was a treasure map. But there's a drawback. Huaxia people may not pay much attention to it. If they send some weak masters, I'm afraid they won't have the ability to open the underground palace at all. That's why I hired a mercenary group to snipe them. If the Wuxia people are easily killed by the mercenary group, it means that they can't open the underground palace at all. At that time, Wuxia will definitely send a group of more powerful people. If the mercenary group is killed by the Wuxia people, then we don't have to lose anything. We don't even need to pay a commission. After he finished speaking, he laughed. Lord Jonin is far-sighted. This is what you often say about killing people with a borrowed knife. I've learned something. The ninja said respectfully, Lord Jonin, what should we do next? Go in with those Wuxia people. The neon samurai shook his head and said, no. The Wuxia people are very cunning. They often set up some traps and arrays in the underground palace. These are not things that we are good at, so we only need to guard the door and wait for those people to come out to snatch their things. The ninja praised again, Lord Jonin, good plan. The neon samurai said, there's an old saying in Wuxia that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. I'm afraid those Wuxia people still don't know that they are fighting for our country's ninjas. After that, more than a dozen neon people laughed arrogantly together. Chapter 213. The driver of Qin Haodong and the others was still the bald Xie Ziden, but compared with a few days ago, Xie Ziden's attitude had changed significantly. In the past, he didn't talk to Qin Haodong at all, but now he began to chat. Although he had spent 1 million yuan, he was still very grateful to Qin Haodong from the bottom of his heart. Without Qin Haodong, he would have died in the hands of the devilish five. The two Hummers moved slowly for another day. They were getting closer and closer to their destination in the evening. Are we almost there? Hu Shaoxian asked. Let me have a look. Xie Ziden said as he called out the electronic map in the car to see how far they were from their marked destination. We're almost there. At this speed, we'll be there in half a day tomorrow, but the road ahead is getting more and more difficult and dangerous. The area we're going to enter is called the Death Zone. According to the previous investigation, 18 expeditions have been here, but they disappeared completely after entering the Death Zone. Even no information was sent out. While he was talking, the electronic map suddenly flickered, and then turned into a snowflake. There was no more display. What's going on? Is there no signal here? Our car is connected to a military satellite signal. It's impossible for it to disappear. Xie Ziden said as he fiddled with the electronic map, but there was still a snowflake. There was no response. Hu Shaoxian took out her mobile phone and said, don't look at it. Our mobile phones are also connected to a military satellite, but now there is no signal at all. Xie Ziden sighed, this place is really strange. No wonder there was no message from those expeditions after they came in. It turns out that there is no signal from any electronic equipment here. Qin Haodong said, that's normal. If it wasn't strange, it wouldn't be called the Death Zone. Xie Ziden said, Dr. Qin, we have a mission and have to come here. If you have nothing to do, you might as well leave. It's too dangerous here. Besides, you have a child with you. Qin Haodong knew that he meant well. He smiled and said, the herbs I want to collect can only be found in the Death Zone. If I leave now, all my efforts will be wasted. While they were talking, the Hummer drove into a small valley, which was about 1 square kilometer in size. It was completely different from the outside world. There was not much tall vegetation here, and it was all green grass. Entering this place from the dense forest made people feel suddenly enlightened. The most surprising thing was that there was a pool in the center of the valley. The pool wasn't too big, but it was very clear. Moreover, there was a small island that was about 20 to 30 square meters in the middle of the pool. This kind of circular structure couldn't help but make people sigh at the wonders of the Creator. At this time, the sun was setting in the west. There wasn't much light in the forest, but this place was dyed golden by the setting sun. It looked extremely beautiful. Papa, it's so beautiful here. It's like a fairy tale world. The little fellow jumped happily in Qin Haodong's arms. Living in the forest for so many days really made her feel a little depressed. However, after entering here, Qin Haodong frowned. Hu Shaoxian, who was also in a good mood, glanced at him and asked, "What's wrong? Don't you like it here?" "It's not that I don't like it, but I have a bad feeling." He made a divination and it was indeed a bad omen. At this time, the Hummer in front of them stopped. Lei Tianrui and others got off and began to unload the equipment from the car. It seemed that they were going to camp near the pool. Qin Haodong said to Hu Shaoxian, "I don't feel good here. Can you tell them if we can go forward for a while and then camp?" Hu Shaoxian said, "Are you tired? I think it's very good here. It's very suitable for camping." Qin Haodong looked serious and said, "If you believe me, change the place. This is not a joke." "Well, I'll go and tell them now." Hu Shaoxian was very convinced by Qin Haodong's magical performance along the way. Although she liked the beautiful scenery here very much, she decided to believe Qin Haodong. Although it didn't feel good, it couldn't be denied that the scenery here was really good. Qin Haodong also got off the car with the little fellow in his arms and walked around the pool. The pool could be 3 or 4 meters deep and 12 or 13 meters wide. The water in the pool was so clear that the pebbles at the bottom could be seen. There were some unknown fish swimming around. Maybe these fish had never seen human beings before, so they didn't know fear. They still swam leisurely when they saw Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian. At this time, Hu Shaoxian came to Lei Tianrui and others and said, "Let's not camp here. Let's go forward for a while and then find a suitable place to camp." Lei Tianrui said, "Shaoxian, are you stupid? The scenery here is so beautiful. It's like a paradise on earth. It's perfect for camping here." Hu Shaoxian said, "Haodong said that he doesn't feel good here. It's very likely that there will be danger. We'd better change places." Lei Tianrui's face suddenly became cold when he heard that it was Qin Haodong's idea. Dong Sihai said with disdain, "Shaoxian, don't listen to him. He's just a doctor. He's good at treating diseases, but I'm a jungle expert. No one is better at surviving in this big forest than me." Then he pointed around and said, "Look at the environment here. Beauty is secondary. The most important thing is safety. There are no tall trees around. If there are beasts, we can find them immediately. Even if there is something we can't resist, there is an island in the pool. We can go to the island to hide. I've been in the big forest for more than 10 years, and I've never seen a better place to camp than here." He said that it's not good here. I can only say that he's too ignorant. In the end, he turned his face directly and almost shouted at Qin Haodong. Zhao Qinkuan also said, "That's right, Shaoxian. Don't listen to him. We are members of the Shenyuan Pavilion. The lowest cultivation is at the 9th level of overt power. We've seen all kinds of storms. There's no need to listen to a toy boy. It's okay if you don't listen to him. There's no need to attack him." Although Hu Shaoxian was dissatisfied with these people's attitude towards Qin Haodong, she also felt that what they said was reasonable. This place looked really suitable for camping. Qin Haodong also heard the conversation of these people. He stepped over and said, "I'm just saying this. It's up to you whether you believe it or not." Dong Sihai said disdainfully, "It's strange that I believe you. I'm a jungle expert. If it's dangerous here, there will be no safe place." Qin Haodong didn't say more. Some things could be made clear. Even if there was danger, he was confident that he could protect the little fellow and Hu Shaoxian. As for others, he didn't care so much. "What are you pretending to be? You're just a little doctor. How dare you pretend to be a jungle expert? Zhao Qianquan spat on the ground. He was the most stingy person in daily life. Now Qin Haodong had taken 3 million yuan from him. He hated Qin Haodong to death. Dong Sihai said, "Boss, don't worry. It's far from the forest. It's not suitable for hunting. Let's see what he will eat tonight." Zhao Qianquan said, "That's right. When there's no food, he will come to beg us." While he was talking, a sudden fragrance floated over. He turned around and saw that Qin Haodong and the other two had set up a bonfire and were roasting 4 or 5 fat fresh fish on the fire. And in addition to the roasted fish, there was wine and meat. It looked very rich. Wang Yuancheng cried in surprise, "Oh my God, is he Doraemon? How can there be so much food in such a small backpack?" Lei Tianrui's face also became very ugly. Although they had brought enough equipment, they only had some dry food and plastic meat products, which were much worse than those on the other side. At the same time, his plan to use food to threaten Qin Haodong and get back the 30 million yuan he had thrown out was ruined. Zhao Qianquan said, "No, we have to think of another way." Lei Tianrui said, "In fact, it's easy to find trouble with him. He has been riding in our car from beginning to end. We can just charge him some fare." Zhao Qianquan patted his head and said, "That's right. Why didn't I think of it? This guy took the child in our Hummer. It's not too much to charge him 1 million a day." Lei Tianrui said, "How can 1 million a day be enough? We have thrown out 30 million. At this speed, it will take 30 days to get it back. We don't have that much time, so we charge him 5 million a day." "Got it, boss." Zhao Qianquan cried excitedly, "I'm going to ask him for money now. If he doesn't pay, I'll let him go tomorrow." Qin Haodong was shaving the fish bones from the little fellow's meat. Seeing Zhao Qianquan coming over, he said, "What? You're not coming to me to charge protection fees again, are you?" Zhao Qianquan's face froze, but he still said cheekily, "If I don't charge protection fees, you have to pay some fare since you take our car every day. Our boss said 5 million a day. If you don't pay, you'll go by yourself." Hu Shaoxian said angrily, 5 million. Why don't you rob? Although these 2 Hummers have been modified, the price is only about 3 million. You should charge 5 million a day. Are you crazy about money? Zhao Qianquan said plausibly, "That's different. We are in Shenangjia. It's more dangerous to walk here. Special places naturally have special charges. 5 million a day is cheap." In fact, Qin Haodong didn't care whether he took the car or not. Now that they were close to the location of the underground palace, it would be more convenient for him to act alone with the little fellow. But at this moment, there was a roar of wild animals coming from the edge of the basin. A huge leopard rushed here quickly. "No, there's a beast," Hu Shaoxian said. She reached out and pulled out the purple flash sword from her waist, guarding in front of Qin Haodong and the little fellow. "You're so useless. You need a woman to protect you." Zhao Qianquan seemed to have finally found a chance to show off. He pulled out a single knife from his back and walked towards the leopard. As he walked, he said, "Today I'll show you what a real man is." But before he could go far, his expression suddenly became sluggish. There was not only one leopard in front of him, but all kinds of wild beasts rushed in from the edge of the basin. There were black bears, tigers, wolves, rhinoceroses, zebras, and gazelles. These wild beasts had already joined together, but the leopard was the fastest, so it rushed in first. Zhao Qianquan couldn't care about anything else. He turned around and ran back, no longer caring about showing himself as a real man. So many beasts would trample him to death. Even if his cultivation was raised to another level, it was impossible for him to be a match for so many beasts, not to mention that he was only at the 9th level of overt power. Not only him, everyone here became nervous. Lei Tianrui shouted to Dong Sihai, "What the hell is going on? Dong Sihai said with a blank face, I don't know. I've never seen such a situation. It seems to be the legendary beast tide. Chapter 214. Lei Tianrui turned to Wang Yuanqing and said, aren't you good at taming animals? Can you subdue these guys? Wang Yuanqing said with a wry smile, boss, even the most powerful tamer needs time, and no one can train so many at once. Besides, these beasts are crazy, and immortals can't tame them. What should we do? Lei Tianrui cried. Wang Yuanqing said, in fact, it's easy. We can get in the car and hide. We can drive away directly. The armor of the Hummer is so thick that these beasts can't break it. Lei Tianrui cried, that's right. Get in the car. After that, the 5 of them hurriedly got in the Hummer. Hu Shaoxian also protected Qin Haodong and the little fellow to retreat to the car. Although they got in the car, they all stuck their heads out of the window to observe the situation of the beasts. After watching for a while, Wang Yuanqing said, boss, it doesn't seem right. These beasts are not beasts at all. They are frightened. Look at them. The leopards and the gazelles can run together. There is no hostility between them. They have no desire to attack. They just want to escape. Hearing what he said, everyone also found this difference. Many natural enemies were mixed together in the herd, but they did not show any hostility at all, or they had no time to show hostility. They just ran forward desperately. Dong Sihai said, leopards, tigers and rhinoceroses are all the kings of the beasts here. What can make them so scared? It doesn't make sense. Wang Yuanqing said, it's really strange. It shouldn't happen like this. He said to Lei Tianrui, boss, it seems that the little doctor is right. It's not safe here. Shall we leave? Zhao Qinkuan said unconvinced, what danger can there be? We hide in the car and no beasts can attack us. Besides, you can see that they don't want to attack us. Besides, our camp is in a good position. There is a pond next to it. We can retreat to the island in the center of the pond. Lei Tianrui thought for a moment and said, we can attack and defend in the car. Besides, there are so many weapons. There is no need to be too nervous. Dong Sihai followed and said, that's right. We are all martial artists. Besides, there is enough ammunition in the car. There are even 2 rocket launchers. Even if a dinosaur comes, we can turn it into a roasted dragon. What are we afraid of? After hearing what he said, the others calmed down and began to admire the wild beasts outside. Wang Yuanqing picked up a pair of binoculars and observed the running of the wild beasts. For some reason, he had a bad feeling in his heart. In the other car, the little fellow was extremely excited. She jumped and pointed at the animals outside, Papa, look, giraffe, tiger, rhinoceros, big bear. There were hundreds of animals running outside, which was a lot more diverse than what he had seen in the safari park. Hu Shaoxian frowned and said, Haodong, is this the danger you have foreseen? She now trusted Qin Haodong more and more. An hour ago, Qin Haodong said that it was not suitable to camp here, but they could not find any reason for danger. Now they finally saw it. Qin Haodong said, my divination is about things related to myself. It can only predict good luck, but not specific content. Maybe it has something to do with these animals, but I don't think it's enough. These animals alone will not bring us too much threat. Hu Shaoxian held her chin and said, what can be a bigger threat? I really can't imagine what can scare rhinoceros and tigers like this. While talking, he suddenly heard the little fellow cry, Papa, look, those big guys are running back. Qin Haodong looked in the direction of the little fellow's finger. The wild beasts, who had run from one side of the valley to the other side, suddenly seemed to be frightened by something and turned around and ran back. Ants. So many ants. The little fellow pointed to the edge of the forest and cried. She was the Suzaku's sacred body, so her vision was much better than that of ordinary people. Hearing what she said, Qin Haodong also saw that in the direction of the wild beast's return, a large number of black ants emerged from the edge of the forest. These ants were 3 or 4 centimeters long, equivalent to the size of an adult's thumb. The most terrible thing was that there were so many of them that they couldn't see the end at all. It was like a black carpet constantly spreading over here. No matter what it was, once there were too many of them, it would form a huge lethality. No wonder the tigers and leopards were scared to run away. In front of so many ants, no matter how fierce the beast was, it could only become food. How can there be so many ants? Hu Shaoxian cried in surprise, this is a big trouble. It's all because those bastards didn't listen to you. Now they can't run away even if they want to. It was no wonder that Hu Shaoxian felt scared. The AK in their hands was useful to deal with lions and tigers, but the effect on ants was extremely small. If these ants really wanted to attack them, it would definitely be a catastrophe. On Lei Tianrui's side, several people were also excited. Wang Yuancheng held a telescope and exclaimed, "My God, these are African marching ants. Don't they only live in the Amazon basin? Why did they suddenly come to Huaxia, and there are so many of them?" Zhao Qinkuan was also dumbfounded. He never dreamed that these beasts were driven away by small ants. The rocket launcher in his hand didn't have much effect on this kind of thing, because there were too many of them. Lei Tianrui also regretted that he should just listen to Qin Haodong's advice to leave here as soon as possible, and there would be no danger now. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. He could only face it. He said, "Yuancheng, how about we drive out now? It's too late." Wang Yuancheng pointed around the basin and said, "Look, now there are ants everywhere. They have surrounded here. There is no way out." Zhao Qinkuan was not convinced and said, "Can't we rush out with the horsepower of our Hummer? No matter how powerful these ants are, can they stop our wheels?" Wang Yuancheng sighed and said, "You underestimate the marching ants too much. They have a strong bite force. Although they can't stop the wheels, they can eat the tires clean. At that time, we can't go back even if we want to." Lei Tianrui realized how dangerous the situation was. Maybe they would all become ants' feces. He said nervously, "Yuancheng, what can we do now? Can we retreat to the middle of the pool as soon as possible? Normally speaking, ants are afraid of water." Wang Yuancheng said, "We can retreat to the middle of the pool, but these 2 cars can't go through. If we leave them here, all the equipment and food will be eaten up, even the tires will be eaten. At that time, we can't go." This, Lei Tianrui was a little dumbfounded. Without cars and food in the Shenangjia forest, it was absolutely a very dangerous thing. At this time, the ants around began to surround the center of the valley, like an army in encirclement and annihilation, extremely fast and orderly. In the herd, there was a big python left behind. Originally, snakes were not good at speed, so they were soon swallowed by the ants. A terrible scene happened. At the beginning, the big python was still twisting and rolling, trying to resist, but in less than 2 minutes, it became a pile of bones. The speed of these ants was amazing. Then another rhinoceros fell into the ant colony. 2 minutes later, the big guy that could knock over a car also became a pile of bones. My God, it's simply the devil. Hu Shaoxian covered her mouth in surprise. Not only her, but also the people in the car who saw this scene couldn't help but feel creeped out. These ants were really terrible. It could be imagined what it would be like if they fell into the ant colony. Seeing the ants getting closer and closer, Lei Tianrui asked nervously, "What should we do?" Wang Yuanqing thought for a moment and said, "There is a way, but I don't know if it can stop these ants." Lei Tianrui said, "Tell me quickly. If there is a way, we can try it. If it doesn't work, we can retreat to the center of the pool." Now the small pool behind them was their last life-saving straw, and it became the biggest reliance against the ant colony. Wang Yuanqing said, "As far as I know, ants are most afraid of gas and oil. We can pull the two cars together, then dig a ditch around them, and then fill it with gas. Maybe we can stop these ants." They were especially well prepared for this trip to Shenangjia. Both cars were prepared with enough oil. This method could really be tried. Lei Tianrui made a prompt decision and shouted, "Everyone get out of the car and do as Wang Yuanqing said." Time was running out. Everyone immediately jumped out of the car. Xie Ziden and Wang Yuanqing hurriedly pulled the two Hummers against the pool, and then several people took down the military shovel from the car and dug ditches around. At the same time, more and more beasts in the herd fell into the ant colony and became a pile of bones. "Papa, look, the big tiger is coming to us." The little fellow pointed to the herd in the distance and cried. Because this was a valley, it was like a big bowl, and Qin Haodong and the others were just at the bottom of the bowl. The panic-stricken beasts were driven by the ant colony with nowhere to escape, so they naturally gathered to the bottom of the valley. Wang Yuanqing cried, "No, we must stop them. We can't let them rush over, or they will ruin our plan." Although they were all warriors and their speed of digging ditches was extremely fast, the time was too short. They had only dug half of it. If these beasts rushed in, all the previous efforts would be wasted. "You can hurry to dig ditches, and I will stop them with Shaoxian." Lei Tianrui showed the decisiveness of a team leader at this time. After a loud shout, he picked up an AK from the car and pulled the trigger at several beasts rushing in front of him. Hu Shaoxian also knew that it was not the time to be merciful. She also grabbed a gun and began to shoot at the approaching beasts. Zhao Qiankuan and others also moved their shovels and speeded up the speed of digging ditches. Tigers, leopards and black bears fell down one by one, and the scene was a little bloody. At first, Qin Haodong was afraid that the little fellow could not accept it, but later he found that the little fellow did not have much difference. This may be because she had experienced a lot with him recently, or it may be the influence of the Suzaku sacred body. In short, the little fellow showed a far greater endurance than children of the same age. Lei Tianrui and Hu Shaoxian changed several magazines in succession, and a large number of beasts were shot and killed, but they did not have too much sympathy in their hearts. Even if they did not shoot, these beasts would become the food of the ants. It was only a few minutes. And the death of these beasts blocked the advance of the ants. When they devoured the bodies of the beasts, their progress was always a little slower. 10 minutes later, the sun was close to the horizon, leaving only a trace of afterglow. Zhao Qiankuan and others finally dug a ditch about 10 centimeters deep and 1 meter wide, and poured the gasoline barrels in the car into the ditch. At this time, there was no living beast around. The whole valley was covered by the black ants, which looked like a layer of black carpet. However, the scene of the ants devouring the beasts was still vivid in their minds, which brought a strong sense of oppression to each of them. Chapter 2:15. On the other side of the pool, Qin Haodong and the others were facing the overwhelming ants, separated by a ditch filled with gasoline. Although these ants did not make any sound, they brought great pressure to people. The little fellow also felt scared. She clung to Qin Haodong's neck and whispered, "Papa, I'm scared." Qin Haodong reached out and touched her head, saying, "I'm here. Don't be afraid." Not only the little fellow felt scared, but also Lei Tianrui and others were so nervous that their palms were sweating. In the face of these terrible ants, all martial arts masters and modern weapons seemed to be pale and powerless. They all looked at the gasoline ditch in front of them, hoping to stop these black killers. These black ants stopped in front of the gasoline hook, as if they hated the smell of gasoline very much. But they just stopped, and there was no sign of retreating. Hu Shaoxian grabbed Qin Haodong's arm and whispered, "Haodong, can the gasoline stop these ants?" Qin Haodong shook his head slightly and said, "These little things are too fierce. It seems impossible. It seemed that in order to verify his words, the ants on the other side of the ditch immediately responded. They began to stack up layer by layer. In a few minutes, they built an ant wall about 1 meter high and 1 meter wide. What are they doing? Zhao Qiankuan cried nervously. Qin Haodong's heart skipped a beat and he cried, they are going to jump over soon. Everyone, get ready. These little things seemed to have spiritual intelligence, and they even wanted to build a wall to jump over the ditch. After hearing his shout, everyone also reacted. They formed a human wall on the edge of the ditch, waiting for the ants to jump over and immediately destroy them. Soon, the first batch of ants began to jump. It had to be said that these little things had excellent jumping ability. With the advantage of height, they jumped over the gasoline ditch at once. Although there were not too many ants coming over at once, if it went on like this, it would be difficult to escape the doom of being swallowed up soon. Qin Haodong and others had been waiting for a long time. When they saw the ants jumping over, they immediately began to destroy them. Although these ants were much larger than ordinary ants, at least 30 centimeters in length, they were still relatively small. Guns and other weapons could not be used at all. They could only be smacked with shovels and stepped on with their feet. Zhao Qiankuan lifted his leg and stepped on an ant that had jumped over. According to common sense, this ant was dead. Unexpectedly, when he lifted his foot, the ant that had been stepped on deep into the ground was like a cockroach that could not be killed. Soon, it climbed up again in high spirits and bit Zhao Qiankuan's instep hard. The two big pincers in front of this guy were like two knives, directly tearing Zhao Qiankuan's socks, leaving a bloody wound on his instep. Fortunately, Hu Shaoxian was next to Zhao Qiankuan. She raised the purple flash sword in her hand and cut the tenacious ant in half. However, after this ant died, more and more ants jumped in from outside. It looked like there was no way to kill them all. Qin Haodong cried, no, this little thing is too powerful. We can't stop it at all. Let's retreat to the middle of the pool. Dong Sihai cried, how can we do that? We'll be finished if we withdraw our equipment. Hu Shaoxian said angrily, you're still thinking about equipment at this time. Which is more important, equipment or life? Lei Tianrui killed several ants in succession. He also found that he could not resist the attack of these black devils at all. He gritted his teeth and cried, hurry up and light the gasoline, and then let's retreat to the pool. After getting his order, Zhao Zidong took out a lighter and threw it into the gasoline ditch. With a bang, the gasoline in the whole ditch was burned. With the raging fire, they finally temporarily stopped the attack of the ants and bought some time for everyone to retreat. However, it was only temporary. There was not much gasoline and it burned very fast. It would not be long before these ants would devour the place. Let's retreat quickly. After Lei Tianrui said that, he jumped into the pool. He was very good at swimming and soon swam to the center of the island. Then Zhao Qiankuan, Dong Sihai, Wang Yuancheng and Xie Zidong also swam over. Qin Haodong glanced at Hu Shaoxian who was still standing there and asked, why don't you go over? Can't you swim? Hu Shaoxian said with some embarrassment, I can swim, but my clothes can't get wet, or it will be too embarrassing. Although she usually showed the impression of being sexy and open to others, in fact, she was very conservative inside. The clothes she wore were very thin. If they got wet, it was not much different from wearing nothing. In the face of a lot of men, it was really unacceptable. Qin Haodong said, you hold Tang Tang, I'll take you over. After that, he handed the little fellow to Hu Shaoxian and let her stand on the edge of the pool. The width of the pool was 12 or 13 meters. Even with their cultivation, it was difficult to jump over. But with the help of Qin Haodong, it was different. Ready, jump when I say jump. Qin Haodong shouted, 1, 2, 3, jump. After that, he pushed hard with both hands directly on Hu Shaoxian's two plump buttocks. Hu Xiaoxian's jumping force and Qin Haodong's push made her like a fairy in the air. She landed lightly on the island in the middle of the pool with the little fellow. However, when her feet landed on the ground, there was a strange burning sensation on her buttocks. Although she looked very open in daily life, she was just patted on the buttocks by Qin Haodong in public, so there was a touch of red on her face. Seeing this scene, Lei Tianrui gritted his teeth with anger. His face was livid. He wanted to directly block Qin Haodong there and feed him to the ants. At this time, the gasoline was almost burned out. The 10-centimeter deep trench could not stop the ants at all. Those ants had long been impatient, and they did not care about the heat of the trench at all. They directly rushed over there. Hu Xiaoxian hurriedly cried, "Haodong, come here quickly." The little fellow also cried, "Dad, come here quickly." Although Lei Tianrui, Zhao Qiankuan and others did not speak, they secretly prayed in their hearts, hoping that the little white face could not swim and directly died on the opposite side. "Don't worry, I'll be right there." Qin Haodong smiled at Hu Xiaoxian and the little fellow. He did not want to become like drowning dogs like Lei Tianrui and others. He turned back and took out a can of beer from his backpack, and leisurely drank it. He was still drinking at this time. He was too pretentious, wasn't he? Seeing that the ants were about to reach Qin Haodong's feet, he threw the empty can in his hand into the middle of the pool. At the moment when the ants were about to pounce on his feet, he jumped up and made a beautiful 360-degree somersault in the air. When his body fell, he tapped on the can with one foot. With the buoyancy of the water, he jumped up again, and then landed on the island in the center of the pool. "Great! Dad is great!" The little fellow cried out happily. Lei Tianrui and Zhao Qiankuan's faces all changed. They all thought that Qin Haodong was just a weak doctor, so they provoked him one after another. They did not expect that he was so good at martial arts. Even Lei Tianrui, who had reached the level of covert power, could not do it, let alone Zhao Qiankuan. Qin Haodong took the little fellow from Hu Xiaoxian. When he looked back, the whole army of ants had completely occupied the place where they had just been. These ants seemed to be extremely dissatisfied with Qin Haodong's escape, and they vented crazily on the two Hummers left behind. Soon, all kinds of things left in the car were completely devoured by the ants, including the solid tires of the Hummer, leaving only the bare wool hub. But it seemed that all this was not over. The ants continued to eat the skeleton of the Hummer. 10 minutes later, the two intact Hummers disappeared into thin air. Zhao Qiankuan exclaimed, "My God, these ants can even eat steel. Is there anything they can't eat?" Lei Tianrui said to Wang Yuancheng, "Are you sure these monsters are African marching ants?" Wang Yuancheng licked his dry lips and said, "It doesn't seem to be. Although the African marching ants are fierce, they can't eat steel. They are much worse than these monsters in front of us." Zhao Qiankuan said, "Then what are they?" Wang Yuancheng said awkwardly, "I don't know. It's the first time I've seen ants that can eat steel." They didn't know these ants, but Qin Haodong seemed to think of something. Lei Tianrui said, "The equipment is gone, and these ants are surrounding us, and we don't know when they will retreat. Now we can only announce that the mission has failed, and ask the headquarters for help, so that they can send a helicopter to pick us up." Then he took out his mobile phone, but he was wet all over at this time. When he took out his mobile phone, it was dripping water. He couldn't even turn it on, let alone make a phone call. He couldn't help but regret that he had just run in a hurry and jumped directly into the water. If he had sent them across the river one by one like Qin Haodong, the current embarrassing situation would not have happened. He turned to Hu Xiaoxian and said, "Our phones can't be used. Use your mobile phone to call the headquarters." Hu Xiaoxian said, "This is a dead zone. There was no signal when we just entered, so we couldn't make a phone call at all." This, Lei Tianrui was a little dumbfounded. They were surrounded by ants outside, and now they couldn't ask for help. What else could they do but wait for death? Dong Sihai said, "Boss, don't worry. Anyway, those ants can't come here for the time being. Let's find another way." Lei Tianrui said with annoyance, "It's all your fault. You said that it was no problem to camp here, and it was the safest place. What happened? We even lost our equipment, and we were trapped on this island." Dong Sihai's face was red, and he thought that it was not his own idea to camp here, but everyone agreed. However, he couldn't afford to offend Lei Tianrui, so he could only swallow his words. At this time, he heard the little fellow cry, "Papa, look, how can those leaves walk?" Everyone looked in the direction that the little fellow was pointing at, and saw that a large number of green leaves were moving towards them little by little at the edge of the valley. It really looked like the leaves were walking. Hu Xiaoxian's expression changed, and she cried, "Oh no, these ants are going to cross the river." Lei Tianrui said, "Cross the river? They can't swim, how can they cross the river?" Hu Xiaoxian said, "These leaves are moved by ants. They want to use these leaves to make boats, and then come to our island." "What? Make boats with leaves?" Everyone's expression changed. The island was their last hope. If the ants rushed over again, the consequences would be unimaginable. Zhao Qianquan scolded, "What the hell are these ants? Why are they smarter than people?" The ants moved the leaves very fast. About 20 minutes later, a large number of leaves arrived in front of the pool. As Hu Xiaoxian said, these ants wanted to use the leaves to make boats. First, they threw the leaves on the water, and then jumped on the leaves. Chapter 2:16. After these ants got on the leaves, they even knew how to stretch out their hind legs and slide in the water. Although their legs were thin and slow, the leaves were drifting to the other side after all. According to this situation, the ants would attack the island sooner or later. What should we do? What should we do? This was the voice of everyone. Seeing the army of ants coming to the island from all directions, they could do nothing. If they had some long things like branches in their hands, they could still stir up the water and knock those ants into the water. However, the small island in the middle of the pool was bare. There wasn't even a stone, let alone a branch. Lei Tianrui turned to look at Dong Sihai and cried, "Aren't you a jungle expert? Hurry up and think of a way." I can't do anything," Dong Sihai said with a desperate face. Hu Xiaoxian said, "Haodong has warned you that you can't camp here, but you said it was okay. Now, we are all going to die here." Thinking of the scene of ants devouring wild beasts, everyone couldn't help but feel numb all over, and a layer of goosebumps appeared on their bodies. As people from the special department, they had long thought of the day of death, but no one could accept dying in such a way. Just then, Qin Haodong said, "I have a good news to tell you." "What's the good news?" Hearing his words, everyone's eyes were rekindled with hope. Even Lei Tianrui and Zhao Qianquan, who had been hostile to him, were full of desire. Although death was close to them, Qin Haodong could magically subdue the man-eating vine. Maybe he could also deal with these ants. Qin Haodong said, "I've just seen it. These ants are not South American army ants." Dong Sihai was discouraged and said, "I've seen it for a long time, but what's the use?" Qin Haodong ignored him and said, "These ants have a name. They are called hell soul-devouring ants. Because every time they appear very suddenly, no one knows where they come from, so people say they come from hell. At the same time, these ants are extremely greedy. They can swallow steel. It is said that they can even eat the souls of dead people, so they are called hell-souled devouring ants." The things he said were all from the cultivation world. The hell-soul devouring ant was a terrible creature in the cultivation world. Even the cultivators had to retreat when they encountered it. At first, Qin Haodong didn't think of this. He thought these were just ordinary South American marching ants. But when he saw these ants eat even the hummer, he thought of this terrible creature. After careful observation, he was sure that these were the hell-souled devouring ants of the cultivation world. He just didn't understand how they appeared on the earth. Wang Yuancheng said with a pale face, "You mean, our souls will be eaten by ants after we die, and we won't even have the chance to reincarnate? Is this good news?" "This is indeed good news." Qin Haodong said, "If it's the South American army ants, there's nothing I can do, but I know the weakness of the hell-souled devouring ants." "What? Tell us what their weaknesses are." Lei Tianrui and the others looked at Qin Haodong pitifully. Hu Shaoxian also said, "Yes, Haodong, these things have passed half of the island. Tell us what their weaknesses are, or it will be too late." Qin Haodong said lightly, "All things in nature reinforce and restrain each other. Every creature has something to restrain it, and the hell-souled devouring ants are no exception. They are most afraid of a plant called netherworld grass. As long as you have a leaf of netherworld grass on your body, the hell-soul devouring ants will never dare to approach you. What's the use of this? We haven't even seen netherworld grass. Where can we find it?" "That's right. Isn't that obvious? This island is barren and there isn't even a blade of grass, let alone netherworld grass." Just when Zhao Qiankuan and the others were complaining, a small yellow leaf appeared in Qin Haodong's palm. He said happily, "Coincidentally, I happen to have netherworld grass here." He encountered these netherworld grass by chance when he was collecting herbs. At that time, he didn't expect to meet such terrible creatures as the hell-soul devouring ants. But the space in the storage ring was large enough, so he picked some and threw them in. He didn't expect that they would become life-saving things now. "Take it. Don't lose it." Qin Haodong gave the leaf in his hand to Hu Shaoxian and took out another one from his pocket. Lei Tianrui and the others looked at the golden leaf in Qin Haodong's hand. Their eyes flashed with infinite desire, and they immediately surrounded him. "Dr. Qin, do you have any more netherworld leaves? Can you give me one?" Lei Tianrui asked with a flattering face. Seeing the dense hell-souled devouring ants on the river, he didn't care about his face anymore. Qin Haodong said, "Yes, but why should I give it to you?" Lei Tianrui said, "Dr. Qin, you forget that we are companions. We should help each other when we are in trouble." "Oh. Now that you mention it, I remember that you were still trying to collect the fare from me just now." Lei Tianrui wanted to slap himself in the face. He wanted to charge a protection fee, but he was almost killed by the devilish five. In the end, they saved him. This time, he wanted to charge a fare, but in the end, he didn't even have a car, and he had to put down his face and beg for help. Qin Haodong fiddled with the netherworld leaves in his hand and said, "Now I have a life-saving thing in my hand. You can have it. It's not expensive to charge you twice the fare, is it?" Lei Tianrui suddenly blushed. In order to recover the money he had lost as soon as possible, he asked Qin Haodong for a fare of 5 million a day. Doubled would be 10 million. In the past, Qin Haodong charged 1 million each time. Now it suddenly increased 10 times, which was like shooting himself in the foot. Qin Haodong said with a smile, "As I said, I have always been honest in business. Buying and selling are voluntary. If you want to buy it, buy it. If you don't want to buy it, I won't force you." Lei Tianrui glanced at the dark and dense hell-souled devouring ants in the river again. He had no choice. He said, "Dr. Qin, I will definitely buy it, but there is no mobile phone signal here, and I don't have so much cash, so I can't pay for the time being." Qin Haodong said, "It doesn't matter if you don't have cash, you can give me an IOU." Thinking of the figure of 10 million, Wang Yuancheng felt a little painful. He said, "Are you sure this leaf is useful?" Qin Haodong said, "If it is useful, it can save lives. If it is not, we will all become ant dung. What does it matter if you write an IOU of 100 million? They thought about it and agreed. If their own people died, it was useless to leave more money, let alone an IOU. Xie Zidong said, Dr. Qin, I believe you. I want a netherworld leaf. Qin Haodong took out a pen and paper from his backpack, handed it to Xie Zidong and said, It's very hard for you to drive me all the way. I'll give you a 50% discount. Just write 5 million. Thank you, Dr. Qin. Xie Zidong did not hesitate to write an IOU of 5 million, and then took a netherworld leaf from Qin Haodong. Although Lei Tianrui and others were a little hesitant, seeing that the ants were close to the shore, they also gritted their teeth and wrote the IOU, and then took the netherworld leaf from Qin Haodong. Seeing Qin Haodong put all the paper, pen and IOU into his backpack, Lei Tianrui's heart skipped a beat. He always saw Qin Haodong take things out of the backpack along the way, but the shape of the backpack did not change much, as if it would not bulge no matter how many things were put in, and it would not deflate no matter how many things were taken out. Was this the legendary treasure of Xianmen? The tense moment came. The hell soul-devouring ants finally completed the beach landing, and a large number of them landed on the island in the center of the pool. Qin Haodong and others stood together in a circle, each holding a netherworld leaf in their hands. Now it was time to see if the small leaf would work. At this time, the sun had completely set on the horizon, and only a bright moon in the sky shone on the small valley. It was quiet all around, and everyone could clearly hear their own breathing, heartbeat, and the rustling sound of ants crawling forward. These hell soul-devouring ants were getting closer and closer, and they could even see the two big pincers waving on their heads by the moonlight. 5 meters, 3 meters, 2 meters. When the hell soul-devouring ants came to about 1 meter away from them, they suddenly stopped, and the two antennae on their head swayed wildly. Then, as if they were greatly frightened, they turned around and ran back. Panic seemed to be contagious. The hell soul-devouring ants, which were fierce and indomitable just now, were like a defeated army after a big defeat at this time. Without formation and discipline, they rushed to the pool. Even many ants had no time to jump on the leaves, and fell directly into the pool. After struggling for a few times, they sank. Everyone on the island was relieved, including Qin Haodong. He only learned in the cultivation world that the netherworld leaf could restrain the hell soul-devouring ants, but he had never tried it. He didn't expect the effect to be so good. It seemed that the creator was really magical. A few minutes later, the ants on the island had all fled, and even the hell soul-devouring ants outside the pool began to retreat. 10 minutes later, there was no trace of ants in the whole valley. If it weren't for the strong smell of blood in the air, it would seem that nothing had happened. Everyone felt like they had survived a disaster. It was no wonder that so many expeditions had disappeared after entering the death zone. This place was too evil. It was late at night. For the sake of safety, they did not return to the pool, but camped directly on the island. Early the next morning, the sun rose from the east, and the golden sunshine shone all over the valley. Qin Haodong sent Hu Shaoxian and the little fellow to the other side in the same way, and then threw the netherworld leaf in his hand into the pool, and crossed the water with the buoyancy of the leaf. Lei Tianrui and others looked at the netherworld leaf with complicated feelings. This little thing sold them for 10 million yuan. But they didn't dare to throw it away. Who knew if they would encounter such a terrible thing in the future? After calming down, they all returned to the other side of the pool. At this time, looking around the valley, it was still quiet and beautiful. The beasts that were swallowed yesterday didn't even leave a piece of bone residue. There was only a pool of oil spilled at the location of the two hummers. Only the burnt black gasoline ditch could truly record what had happened here. Lei Tianrui said to Hu Shaoxian and others, let's discuss what to do next. Should we go forward or go back? Hu Shaoxian said, our task hasn't been completed yet. How can we go back? Dong Sihai said, but our vehicles and equipment are gone. It will be very dangerous if we continue to move forward. Hu Shaoxian said, but we are about to reach our destination. If we go back now, all our previous efforts will be in vain. Besides, how do you know that there will be no danger if we go back? Lei Tianrui said, Xiao Xian is right. Since we are here, we should continue to move forward. After the goal was unified, they continued to the depths of Shenangjia. Qin Haodong naturally would not go back. He held the little fellow and walked behind the team with Hu Xiaoxian. Chapter 217. In the thorny forest, walking was not much slower than the two hummers. In addition, the journey was very smooth, and they did not encounter monsters like the hell-souled devouring ants. They arrived at the destination marked on the map near noon. It was at the foot of a mountain. Looking up, the mountain towered into the clouds, surrounded by clouds and mist. It felt like the monsters in the journey to the west were coming. Finally, let's have a rest. After Hu Xiaoxian said that, she took Qin Haodong to sit down on a clean big stone. Others also sat down to recover their strength. Qin Haodong looked at the mountain in front of him. There was a faint feeling of spiritual qi fluctuations. It should be here. Lei Tianrui said to Hu Xiaoxian, we are carrying out a task from above this time. Now we have arrived at the destination. It's not appropriate to take an outsider with us, is it? Hu Xiaoxian said, who is an outsider? If it weren't for Haodong several times, we would have been dead now. It's no big deal to take him in. Are you afraid that he will rob us? Well. Seeing Hu Xiaoxian's strong insistence, Lei Tianrui finally said, well, it's okay to take him in, but there are some things I have to make clear to him first. He turned to look at Qin Haodong and said, I know you have some skills, but our goal is very special. It's impossible for you to rely on your own ability. You must rely on us to take you in. Qin Haodong just smiled and said nothing more. Lei Tianrui continued, because of this, no matter what kind of treasure you encounter after you go in, you have to take us as your master. You have to let us choose the treasure first. But you can rest assured that according to the information we have, this treasure is huge, and you will be rewarded when the time comes. Qin Haodong said, I understand what you mean. The things inside will be distributed according to personal ability and contribution. Am I right? Very right. It's the fairest to distribute treasures according to ability. Lei Tianrui said and nodded. He was very satisfied with the attitude of Director Qin Haodong. After pausing for a moment, he continued, actually, you don't have to feel aggrieved. Don't think that your medical skills are very good, but when it comes to entering a treasure trove, your medical skills aren't of any use at all. You still need the help of our special abilities. We came to Shenangjia this time. All the members have been carefully selected. Xiaoxian and I are masters at the level of covert power. Zhao Qiankuan is an array master. Wang Yuancheng is a beast tamer. Xie Ziden is proficient in traps. Dong Sihai is a jungle expert. For example, the door of the treasure has been covered by a formation. Ordinary people can't see where the door is. If you want to go in, you have to use the ability of Formation Master Zhao Qiankuan. Qin Haodong glanced at Zhao Qiankuan and said, so he knows formations. More than understanding. Since it was his strong point, Zhao Qiankuan straightened his chest. He had suffered many setbacks in front of Qin Haodong along the way, but now he could finally hold his head high. Our Zhao family is a family that specializes in arrays. I started learning arrays when I was 3 years old. When I was 10, I achieved minor success. When I was 20, I achieved major success. I am a rare array genius in the family. As long as I am here, there is no array that cannot be broken. He was extremely awesome. After he finished, he saw that Qin Haodong didn't respond much. He thought that Qin Haodong didn't understand arrays, so he said, no wonder you don't understand. Ordinary people can't see arrays in their lifetime. Today I will give you a simple explanation. Generally speaking, arrays are mainly divided into four main categories: concealment array, illusion array, trap array, and killing array. This is a concealment array, and there must be other follow-up arrays behind it. The reason why this treasure hasn't been excavated until now is because of the protection of the arrays. Dong Sihai said, "Arrays are really amazing. The door is in front of us, but we can't see anything. Qinkuan, it seems that we have to rely on you this time." He had the best relationship with Zhao Qinkuan. After that, he looked at Qin Haodong provocatively and thought, "Are you awesome? Weren't you able to poison the 5 devilish mercenary group? Don't you have the netherworld leaf that can suppress the hell-soul devouring ants? So what? Now if you want to enter the door, you have to rely on us." Qin Haodong smiled and said, "In this case, I will wait to see the methods of the array genius." "No problem, just wait and see." Zhao Qinkuan came to the foot of the mountain arrogantly and began to investigate the hidden array in front of him. The others did not know about arrays, so they all watched curiously. After a full hour, Zhao Qinkuan wandered back and forth at the foot of the mountain for more than a dozen times. The arrogant look on his face gradually disappeared, and on the contrary, beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. "Papa, it's too slow. I'm so bored." The little fellow was very puzzled by Zhao Qinkuan's behavior and felt it was very boring. Qin Haodong said, "My daughter can't wait. Array genius, when can we see the door?" Zhao Qinkuan said with annoyance, "What do you know? This is an upper human level array in front of us. It can't be broken so easily." Lei Tianrui asked, "Is the upper human level array very powerful?" Zhao Qinkuan said, "There are also levels of arrays, which are equivalent to the level of warriors. From high to low, they are divided into heaven level array, earth level array and human level array. Each level is divided into 3 levels, upper, middle and lower. The lower level array is the lowest level and the easiest to break, while the upper level array is the most difficult." Lei Tianrui nodded and said, "Oh. It turns out that the array is too difficult. No wonder it's so hard for you to break it." Qin Haodong smiled and said, "There are 3 levels of arrays in front of us. This one belongs to the human level. Shouldn't it be the easiest? You are a formation genius. Why is it so hard for you to break it? What do you know?" Zhao Qinkuan seemed to have been greatly insulted and cried, "All tactical deployments are built according to the terrain, rivers, mountains, and even stars. That's why they can create the special properties of concealment, illusion, trapping, and killing. Every tactical deployment has great wisdom. How can it be broken so easily?" "Oh." Qin Haodong responded as if he suddenly understood. Then he asked, "How long do you think it will take to break it?" Zhao Qinkuan said, "It takes a lot of effort and many attempts to break an array. You also need a compass to locate and observe it as a whole. Sometimes you even need to consult ancient books and research materials. If you are careless, you will be trapped by the array, and you may die." "Stop." Qin Haodong quickly raised his hand and stopped the chattering Zhao Qinkuan. He said, "Just tell me how long it will take. If it's too long, I'll go to sleep first." "What's with your attitude?" Zhao Qinkuan said angrily, "The level of this array is too high and it's very complicated. It will take me a few hours to calculate it carefully with a compass." "Well, go ahead." Qin Haodong took Hu Shaoxian and the little fellow to sit down on a stone. "Papa, what are we going to do?" the little fellow asked. "That guy is too stupid. It will take a long time to find the gate. Let's fight together." "Let's fight together." "Master, okay." Qin Haodong said and took out a deck of cards from his backpack. "Okay. Okay. I like playing cards best." The little fellow cried out cheerfully. Then, the 3 of them actually sat there and started to play landlord. Zhao Qinkuan was mad. Although his cultivation was not too high, he had always been known as a little genius in the circle of arrays. It was the first time that he had been ignored like this. What did he mean by too stupid? What did he mean by it would take a long time to find the gate? This was a formation of the upper grade of the earth rank, okay? Lei Tianrui said, ignore him. He doesn't know about arrays. Hurry up and break the formation. Let's try to get in before dark. Zhao Qiankuan glared at Qin Haodong angrily. Then he took out a formation plate from his arms and began to calculate carefully. As time went by, it was already noon. Qin Haodong took out food from his magical backpack and began to have lunch. Dong Sihai and Wang Yuanqing also went to hunt some wild animals nearby. After lunch, everyone rested. Zhao Qiankuan continued to work alone. But as the sun was setting and the light around him was getting darker and darker, he still had no clue. I quit. Qin Haodong said. The landlord's bet was that whoever lost would put a blade of grass in his head. He didn't try his best to make the two beauties happy. Now he was like a scarecrow, but Zhao Qiankuan still didn't stop. He took off the straw on his head, walked to Zhao Qiankuan and said, "Can you do it?" After an afternoon, Zhao Qiankuan was already tired and his eyes were dim. He said disappointedly, "I suspect that this is not the upper grade of the human rank, but the lower grade of the earth rank." Qin Haodong said impatiently, "Don't talk nonsense. Just tell me if you can break it or not." I can't break it." Although Zhao Qiankuan didn't want to show weakness in his field of expertise, he had no choice. The level of this formation was too high. He couldn't do anything about it with his attainments in formations. Qin Haodong put his hand on his head and said with annoyance, You let us wait for an afternoon, and this is what you tell us? Don't blame him. Maybe this formation is really too difficult." After dissuading Qin Haodong, Hu Shaoxian said to Zhao Qiankuan, "What should we do?" Zhao Qiankuan said with embarrassment, "There is no good way. I can't break the formation of the earth rank at all. I can only invite the elders from my family." How can this work?" Hu Xiaoxian's face also became gloomy. They had walked for so many days and finally reached their destination. Now there was a treasure mountain but they couldn't get it. Now there was no mobile phone signal at all. If they wanted to send reinforcements, they had to go out of the death zone again to make a call. Who knew how much more dangerous it would be? Who knew if they would encounter something as abnormal as the hell soul-devouring ant? Qin Haodong said discontentedly, "Didn't you start to learn formations at the age of 3? You reached the primary level at the age of 10 and the advanced level at the age of 20? Aren't you a rare formation genius in your family? Isn't there no formation that can't be broken as long as you are here? Why can't you even deal with such a broken thing?" He had already seen that the concealing formation in front of him was an upper grade of the earth rank, but it was a little complicated. He thought that Zhao Qiankuan could definitely break it, but it would take him a little longer. He didn't expect that this guy was more useless than he had imagined. Well. Zhao Qiankuan looked embarrassed. He couldn't blame others. He only blamed himself for boasting too much just now. He boasted that he was a formation genius, but now he was slapped in the face. "You don't understand formations. What are you talking about? It's not my fault at all. The level of the formation is too high, far beyond our expectations." Dong Sihai said, "That's right. You can break the formation if you have the ability. Since you can't do it yourself, don't blame others." Hu Shaoxian said, "What are you talking about? Haodong is a doctor. Aren't you forcing him to break the formation?" Chapter 218. Dong Sihai said, "Since you can't do it, don't gossip. Well, don't quarrel anymore." Qin Haodong stopped Hu Shaoxian and said to Zhao Qiankuan, "Since you can't break the formation, let it stop for a while. Let's go in first, okay? Stop. Zhao Qianquan looked at Qin Haodong as if he were looking at a fool and cried, I said don't talk if you don't understand. What do you think this is? Do you think it's a remote control? Do you think it can stop and move forward? Powerful formations absorb the qi of heaven and earth. Once they are activated, they will emit superpower. It's impossible to stop unless you can destroy the formation. Qin Haodong said, that is to say, you can't stop it. Zhao Qianquan cried angrily, what do you mean I can't do it? Even the person who set up the formation can't do it. It's impossible to do it unless he has reached the level of a guru who is very familiar with the formation and can easily find the flaws. Otherwise, if any Tom, Dick, or Harry could stop the formation, would there still be a need to stabilize the formation? At this time, even Hu Shaoxian couldn't stand it anymore. Her little man was unparalleled in medical skills and was usually very clever. How could he ask such a stupid question? Although she didn't understand the formation, she had heard about it as a member of the Xian department of the Xianyuan Pavilion. She was afraid that even the head of the Zhao family couldn't stop the formation. Stopping the formation required an extreme understanding of the formation, which was 10 times more difficult than breaking it. Since everyone was looking at him strangely, Qin Haodong handed the little fellow to Hu Shaoxian and said, wait for me. Wait? What are you waiting for? Everyone looked at Qin Haodong strangely and didn't know what he was going to do. Qin Haodong looked around and saw a square brick next to him. He didn't know who left it. He grabbed the brick and walked to the foot of the mountain. What is he going to do? Who is he going to hit with the brick? What's going on? Is this man crazy? This is a hidden formation, not an illusion formation. It can't confuse people. When everyone was puzzled, Qin Haodong had come to the foot of the mountain. He raised the brick in his hand and hit it in one direction. Boom, there was a loud noise as if the whole mountain began to shake. What's going on? Was the brick that powerful? Are you sure this isn't a bomb? Is this an earthquake? Just as everyone was shocked by the power of the brick, the scene before them suddenly changed. A cobblestone path appeared before them, stretching into the depths of the mountain. All right, the formation has been paused. He thought that since Zhao Qianquan could break the formation, he didn't have to do anything. After all, it was not good to be too high profile. But now it seemed that it was too difficult for a capable person to keep a low profile. The entire place fell silent. No one spoke. Hu Shaoxian couldn't believe what she was seeing. She rubbed her eyes hard to make sure that the scene in front of her had changed, indicating that the concealing tactical deployment had been broken. She turned her head to look at Qin Haodong, and her face was full of little stars. She knew that he was extraordinary, but she didn't expect him to be so extraordinary. Zhao Qianquan was at a loss of what to do with just a brick. No matter what, it was unbelievable. Lei Tianrui was also confused. Didn't this guy know nothing about arrays just now? How could he solve the problem with just a brick? Zhao Qianquan was the most shocked. He didn't expect that the formation that had troubled him for a whole afternoon would be paused by a brick. If he told this to the experts of arrays, he would be laughed at as a lunatic. But the fact was in front of him. How did this guy do it? The brick made him doubt his life. Was Qin Haodong too powerful or he was too incompetent? Who was the genius of arrays? Could it be that this fellow was just a blind cat bumping into a dead mouse and had some dog's hit luck to coincidentally find the location of the array core? Then this dog's hit luck was too heaven-defying, right? Don't just stand there. Let's go. Qin Haodong said and took the lead to walk to the stone path with the little fellow in his arms. Everyone followed him. Zhao Qianquan looked left and right to make sure that the formation had indeed stopped running and would not cause any damage. Could this guy really break the formation with a brick? Even his grandfather couldn't do that. It must be luck. In fact, he was wrong this time. The reason why Qin Haodong could break the formation with a brick was entirely because of his strength, and it had nothing to do with luck. A formation had advantages and disadvantages. It had a door of life and a door of death. The weakness of a formation was its formation core. As long as the formation core was found, no matter how powerful the formation was, it would be vulnerable. Every formation had its formation core, but the location of the formation core was different. Some were set in the formation, and some were set on the side. The hidden formation core just now was on the side, so Qin Haodong easily found it. Just now, he stopped the formation with a brick. It seemed very simple in others' eyes, but in fact, it was a combination of countless wisdom and strength. His green with genuine qi was extremely pure. Just now, he mobilized the nearby essence of plants to help him, so he destroyed the formation core and paused the formation. If it were someone else, it would take a lot of effort to find the formation core. They walked along the cobblestone path for about a mile, and suddenly a fog rose around them. The fog came so suddenly that it blocked everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. It was so white that they couldn't see anything at all. They could barely see their companions nearby. What's the matter? Why is there such a big fog all of a sudden? Although they had encountered fog along the way, it had never been so thick. At this time, they couldn't see the scenery around them, and they couldn't even see the road under their feet. How could they move forward? Lei Tianrui said with annoyance, such a big fog. When will it dissipate? Zhao Qinkuan took out the compass from his arms and said after checking, "Boss, it's not fog, it's a formation." Formation? What formation? Lei Tianrui was shocked. He didn't expect that he would fall into a formation while walking. Zhao Qinkuan said, "If I'm not wrong, this formation is called the Cloud and Mist Trap Formation. The powerful thing about this kind of formation is that it can make people enter it unconsciously, and then block people's six senses through the fog, so that you can't distinguish north from south, and finally get trapped in the formation. What should we do? Can you break it?" After what happened just now, Lei Tianrui also realized that Zhao Qinkuan was not omnipotent. He was a formation genius, but not so. Should be able to break it. The formation here was extremely ingenious. The formation of the same level was more powerful than the one outside. Even Zhao Qinkuan himself was not so confident. He said again, "To break the cloud and mist trap formation, we must first observe the direction of the airflow, and then locate the position of heaven and earth through the formation plate. It may take a little longer. You must be patient." How long will it take to be patient? 3 or 2 days. You won't let us starve to death here, will you? Qin Haodong's words immediately reminded them that they were too excited and they just came in and didn't prepare any food. If they were trapped for too long, they would really starve to death. Then what can I do? This is the cloud and mist trap formation, the peak of the formation in the human level. Zhao Qinkuan was extremely dissatisfied with Qin Haodong's doubt. He cried, "Don't think that you're so great just because you've just found a dead mouse by luck. You can break this formation if you have the ability. Just say no. You really have a lot of nonsense." Qin Haodong despised Zhao Qinkuan, and then reached out his hand. No one knew when there was another brick in his hand. He took 2 steps forward, waved the brick in his hand, and hit it hard in one direction. Zhao Qinkuan cried, "Are you kidding me? Good luck doesn't always come. If you can break the formation again, I'll..." When he said this, he suddenly felt as if his neck was strangled. He could no longer say the rest of the words, because the surrounding fog had begun to dissipate quickly, and the scenery in front of them became clear again. Everyone was dumbfounded. Was it really so easy to break the formation? Should he find a brick to try next time? If he had known this earlier, he would not have brought Zhao Qinkuan here. He could have just pulled a cart of bricks from outside. "Little man, you're really great. Hu Shaoxian said, holding Qin Haodong and kissing him on the cheek. The little fellow also did not want to be outdone. She kissed the other cheek. Qin Haodong looked at Zhao Qiankuan and asked jokingly, "What will you do if I break the formation?" "No, nothing." Zhao Qiankuan was embarrassed, but at the same time, he secretly felt lucky. What he wanted to say was, "If you break the formation, I will kneel down and call you father." Fortunately, he said it a little slower, otherwise, he would really lose face. At the same time, he did not understand how Qin Haodong did it. If the last time he stopped the formation with the brick was by chance and luck, what about this time? Could it be that Qin Haodong could easily find the formation eye of a formation? That was really terrible. It seemed that he had to report this matter to his family. The others did not think as much as he did. They continued to move forward after breaking the trap formation of clouds and mist. The further they walked, the more open it became. About 10 minutes later, they came to a beautiful peach forest. Hu Shaoxian looked around at the peach blossoms and sighed, "It's so beautiful here. It's really like a fairyland on earth." Qin Haodong was not as relaxed as she was. He said with a sullen face, "Be careful, everyone. It's very dangerous here." Dong Sihai said, "Are you kidding me? There's not even a mosquito here, let alone those abominable ants. How can it be dangerous?" Before he could finish speaking, a breeze blew past, and peach blossoms fell. At first, no one paid attention, but these light peach blossoms carried a sharp aura, and the speed at which they fell was 100 times faster than normal peach blossoms, heading straight for his throat. Fortunately, Dong Sihai had the acuity of a warrior. At the critical moment, he gently turned his head and the peach blossoms brushed his shoulder. It was a close call. Although he avoided the vital parts, the peach blossoms directly cut the clothes on his shoulder and left a 3 or 4 centimeters long wound. "Ah!" Dong Sihai screamed and covered his shoulder, "What's going on?" Zhao Qiankuan's face changed and he exclaimed, "Falling leaves and flying flowers can hurt people. This is the killing formation of flying flowers and falling leaves." It was no wonder that he was shocked. The killing formation was much more powerful than other formations. The concealing formation made people unable to find what they wanted at most. The trap formation made people unable to move forward, but the killing formation directly killed people. No one had expected that a small peach blossoms could have the power of a knife, enough to take people's lives. Everyone immediately gathered together and looked around vigilantly, for fear that more peach blossoms would fall. Hu Shaoxian held the purple flash sword in front of Qin Haodong and the little fellow. She shouted to Zhao Qiankuan, "What should we do? Do you have any way to break the formation?" "Forget it. It's useless to ask you." Before Zhao Qiankuan could speak, Hu Shaoxian turned to look at Qin Haodong and said, "Haodong, do you have any more bricks?" You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.